When they told me I had terminal lung cancer, I was so thrilled that I practically licked the hospital bathroom clean. My entire life has been nothing but misery and exhaustion. In school, I was bullied by my classmates. At work, I was harassed by my boss. After getting married, my wife treated me with nothing but contempt. Leaving early might actually be a blessing. And yet, the bad luck just keeps coming. I've been branded a thief, accused of being a pervert on the subway, and even fell victim to an old lady's scam in the park bathroom. If that's how it's going to be, then let it all burn. No one is getting off easy today. Stepping out of the hospital, the doctor's words were still echoing in my head. I walked down the street, completely lost. Just as I was thinking about how to divorce my wife, a crisp ringtone suddenly went off nearby. Someone had left their phone on a bench by the side of the road. I walked over and answered the video call. A woman with a wide, round face appeared on the screen. "Listen up," she snapped. "Stealing property worth $2,000 is enough to get you prison time. I've already recorded your face. So don't get any bright ideas about keeping it. Bring my phone to me right now." This phone cost $1,000. I was stunned. This fat woman actually thought I was a thief. "I didn't steal your phone. You must have dropped it here. Come and get it yourself." Hearing her threaten to call the police, my instinctual fear kicked in. I tried to explain patiently. "Why would I just drop my phone? Do you think I'm an idiot? Bring it to me right now. And don't you dare try to set any conditions. Why are there so many morons in the world?" My brow furrowed. Just as I was about to keep explaining, a man's face joined the video call. "Listen to me, you piece of trash. I bought that phone for my girlfriend. I'm giving you one last chance. If you don't bring it to us, you can rot in jail." "Who do you think you're talking to?" I finally snapped. I was already in a terrible mood, and now I was being framed for theft. I chucked the phone straight into the middle of the road. As cars sped by one after another, the phone was instantly crushed into a pile of scrap metal. Looking at the shattered remains of the phone, I felt a rush of adrenaline I hadn't felt in 20 years. In that moment, I finally felt free. Screw it. For the 6 months I have left, I'm only living for myself. When I got home, my wife, Sarah, walked out wearing a bathrobe. She frowned the moment she saw me. "Home early today? Bring me the hairdryer." "I'm going out for drinks tonight. Make me some porridge before you do anything else." I didn't say a word. I silently grabbed the hairdryer and handed it to Sarah. She didn't even try to hide her disgust. "Get away from me. Go rinse your mouth and wash your face. You've been smoking again." "How many times do I have to tell you? If you haven't washed up after smoking, you're not allowed in this room. You are my little apple. No matter how I love you, it's never enough." The high decibel blaring started up again. It was the seniors in the neighborhood doing their square dancing. They stayed out late every single night. The neighbors had complained countless times and even called the police, but nothing ever changed. Once, in an attempt to get them to turn it down, I had bought several cases of soda for those martial arts masters. The old folks drank the soda, sold the bottles, and then danced even harder with the empty ones. Today, I wasn't going to take it anymore. I walked into the storage room. When I came back out, I was holding a heavy iron hammer. Sarah looked at me with pure disdain. "You coward. You always act tough, but you chicken out. The second things get real. Don't back down now. Go smash their speakers and I'll do whatever you want." I gripped the hammer and gave it an experimental swing, feeling its weight in my hand. I pulled the door open and left Sarah standing there. Sarah felt like something was off. That loser seemed like a completely different person today. Without even drying her hair, she ran to the balcony. She wanted to watch me get humiliated, so she could have more material to mock me with. I headed downstairs. Several large crates of fruit were stacked by the entrance, along with 6 3-gallon jugs of purified water. They belonged to Tiffany from the 9th floor. The moment Tiffany saw me, she immediately called out, "Move the fruit and water into the elevator. My door is unlocked. Put them in the kitchen and make sure they're organized. And don't you dare scuff my fridge." In the past, I didn't know how to say no. Tiffany was always bossing me around, making me do this and that. I glanced at Tiffany while holding my iron hammer. "I'm busy." "Move it yourself," Tiffany exploded. "I'm a woman. You're telling me to carry all this heavy stuff? Is there something wrong with your head? We're neighbors. It's just helping each other out. How can you be so selfish?" If you want someone to carry things, find your husband. Don't give me that moral high ground crap, I snapped back. Do you have a brain? Do you have any idea how hard my husband works every day? As his wife, can't I show him a little compassion? You're unbelievable. I ignored the woman. I had more important things to do. I reached the square where they were dancing in a few quick strides. 2 massive wooden speakers were blasting music at full volume. They were high-powered, giving the entire small garden a sort of surround sound theater feel. I walked over and, without a word, yanked the power cord. The music cut out instantly. The seniors, who had been dancing enthusiastically, all came to a halt. Dancing without music wasn't fun. And they were furious. What do you think you're doing? Put that back in right now. Several of the seniors recognized me. I was the one who had given them the soda, so they had a decent impression of me. I smiled at the old folks, pulled out the iron hammer, and gave it a swing. You're about to find out exactly what I'm doing. With a loud crack, the hammer slammed into the speaker. The seniors stood there, frozen. A moment later, they all started screaming. You're crazy! Stop. You're going to pay for that. My speakers. Those cost hundreds of dollars. I didn't stop. Within seconds, I had smashed the speakers to pieces. I pulverized the MP4 player and gave it a few good stomps for good measure. It felt amazing. So incredibly cathartic. I gave them a sweet smile. Now do you know what I'm doing? The seniors were livid. The angrier they got, the better I felt. In the past, I was the one who was angry. Now it's your turn. A few of them tried to charge at me, getting ready to grab onto my legs and not let go. One old man even lay down on the ground on cue. My heart. Murder. He's killing me. Help. Someone help. The screaming was blood-curdling, but nobody paid them any mind. I tucked the hammer away and took off. I didn't give them a chance to trap me. Returning to the building entrance, I said to a fuming Tiffany, I found a few seniors to help you move your stuff. They'll be here any second. When Tiffany heard I'd found help, her anger vanished instantly. She looked at me with expectation. I ignored her, stepped into the elevator, and went back to my apartment. Sarah had seen everything from the balcony. She could hardly believe her eyes. Was this her spineless husband? He had been so decisive, not even caring when that old man pulled a stunt on the ground. The way he smashed those speakers was actually hot. In 2 years of marriage, she had never seen him look so cool. I went inside to change my shoes, put the hammer away, and washed my hands and mouth. Then I stared intently at Sarah. Sarah understood the look in my eyes. Wait, can we talk about this after I get back from the party? She had completely forgotten to call me a loser. I lunged straight at her. After exactly 2.5 minutes of close contact with her, Sarah said with annoyance, You loser? You got what you wanted. But now I have to go clean up all over again. This is so annoying. Let's just get a divorce. I looked straight at Sarah and asked, What do you mean? You want a divorce right after we're finished? When did you learn to be so heartless, you loser? Haven't you always looked down on me for being useless? Now I'm giving you the freedom to go find a capable husband. I didn't want to say anything else. My body was tired, and my heart was even more exhausted. Oh, feeling tough now, are we? If you're so brave, do it again. Sarah, that loser, continued to put me down. Even though my performance just now had clearly satisfied her. It was noisy outside the door. I pulled the door open. A crowd of elderly people stood there along with Tiffany. All of them had flushed faces and bloodshot eyes. Don't think that giving us a little fruit means we won't come after you for the money. It's $2,200 total. The speaker was Arthur, the leader of the square dancers. He was nearly 70 years old. He demanded compensation the moment he opened his mouth, acting completely self-righteous. Fruit? What fruit? I was a bit confused. The fruit you left downstairs. They snatched it all up, saying it was your compensation to them. Tiffany spoke with a voice trembling on the verge of tears. It turned out, Tiffany thought, these people were the help I'd found to move her groceries. She had happily distributed the fruit to them. These people actually did help move the fruit, except they moved it straight into their own homes. After figuring out the sequence of events, I didn't even know what to say. I never imagined that a casual remark could cause such a massive misunderstanding. Just then, Sarah emerged fully dressed, clutching her elegant little handbag. She said to me as I stood in the doorway, "Move. I'm going to a party. Remember to call me around 2000 a.m. If I'm drunk, come pick me up." Looking at my wife's refined face, I was about to ask her to stay and discuss the divorce, but she just walked right past me. It seems she thought my talk of divorce was just a joke. "Pay up. If you don't pay now, I'm calling the police. You're a public nuisance, disturbing the residents' peace and recreation. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Arthur pointed his finger at me, spitting as he yelled. His finger was inches from my nose. I said, "I was planning to give you all $1,000 each in compensation. But since you want to call the police, let the cops handle it. I'll be waiting inside." With that, I slammed the door shut with a bang. I pulled out my phone and started recording. The seniors outside were incensed by my attitude. They ranted and cursed, pounding violently on the door. The massive, chaotic din was punctuated by Tiffany's tearful cursing. I poured myself a glass of juice. I sat by the entrance and sipped it slowly, feeling quite happy. Then, I suddenly remembered my illness again. The smile slowly faded from my face. This world is too bitter and exhausting. Leaving early is its own kind of release. Let it be. It's time to get my affairs in order. I suddenly lost interest in recording. I put my phone away and went to the bedroom. I collapsed onto the bed without even taking off my clothes. In a daze, I actually fell asleep. Thump, thump, thump. The floorboards rhythmically vibrated. It was the kid upstairs jumping rope again. I had mentioned it countless times, asking them to have the kid jump rope downstairs. That family never listened. I checked my phone. It was already 10 p.m. Looks like I need to use the hammer one more time. I took the hammer and went up to the 7th floor. I knocked gently on the door. The kid's mother opened the door. The moment she saw me, her face darkened. "Are you here to harass my son about jumping rope again? Don't you know he has a PE exam for this? What's with that look on your face? Are you really petty enough to pick on a little kid?" I pushed past the woman and walked into the living room. The kid was jumping rope in the middle of the room. The father was watching TV, while counting the jumps for the boy. When the father saw me, he was clearly startled. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing? I've said it 1,000 times, so there's no need to say it again. I know kids have a lot of pressure at school, but that's no excuse to disturb your neighbors. If you want to jump rope, go downstairs. You could jump until the end of time and no one would care." With a loud crash, I slammed the hammer right into the center of the TV screen. The LCD screen sparked and crackled. After a surge of static, it turned into a heap of plastic and electronic scrap. Before the man could even react, my hammer had already come down on the coffee table. The tabletop was made of glass. I swung with all my might. With a shattering roar, the tempered glass exploded into a pile of tiny shards. The teacups and fruit on the table flew into the air before crashing to the floor. It was a total mess. "That was the first warning," I said, before turning to walk out. "Wah!" The kid was terrified and burst into tears. The couple was stunned, speechless. It took them a long time to snap out of it. The woman wanted to call the police. The man, however, recalled the calm expression on my face. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Calling the police would only lead to some financial compensation. But if I decided to retaliate, that hammer could shatter tempered glass. If it hit a human skull, there would be no coming back. Forget it. "Toby, from now on, you jump rope downstairs." Why should we listen to him? The woman was fuming, insisting on calling the police. The man stopped her with a sharp look. When I got home, I felt incredibly refreshed. It was so satisfying. A man with nothing to lose doesn't fear the world. A man who doesn't fear death fears nothing at all. I didn't go to sleep. I saw the location my wife had sent on my phone 4 hours ago. I fell into deep thought. I often doubted whether there was ever any love between us. We probably only married because our circumstances were a good match. We often fought over money or interests, yet we never suspected each other of cheating. At first, I thought it was mutual trust. Now I realize it was because we didn't care. If you want to cheat, go ahead. It doesn't matter. Only those who don't care can trust. Completely. It didn't matter if she didn't come home until midnight. My wife went out with her friends constantly. Almost every time, she'd make me go pick her up. I used to think it was just her vanity. Sarah wanted to show her friends that she had a husband who doted on her and followed her every command. After wrestling with it for a while, I finally decided on the divorce. I'd leave half of the assets to her in the split. I didn't want things to be too difficult for her. After all, we were once a couple. I'm a dying man anyway. Why sweat the small stuff? I just want to leave in peace, with no lingering attachments. At 2000 a.m., my phone rang right on time. Sarah's slurred voice came through the line. "Loser, come get me." I was used to this. I took a cab to the bar and carried my intoxicated wife out on my back. I found the car in the underground parking lot, stuffed her into the back seat, and drove home. After getting home, we slept in separate beds, each in our own world. The next day, I drove to work. I had just sat down and taken 2 bites of breakfast when my phone rang with an unknown number. I pressed the answer button. An angry voice exploded from the phone. "Move your car. You're in my parking spot." When I parked, I was certain I had used a visitor spot. I suspected they had the wrong number. "You must be mistaken. I parked in a visitor spot." "Is your license plate NB9527? "Yes." "Why?" "Then I have the right person. This parking spot is mine." "Wait right here. I'm coming down now." I started to feel a bit uncertain. "Hurry up, I'm busy." The voice on the phone sounded very impatient. A moment later, I reached my car. There was a man who didn't look very old, but he had a massive gut. He was standing next to a black Mercedes. Beside him was the property security guard. The guard was wearing a forced, apologetic smile. "Are you the one who just called me?" I'd finished my breakfast in 2 bites, and my chest was starting to ache. I figured the cancer cells had woken up too. They were starting to get active. "Cut the crap and move your car already. This spot is mine." The fat man looked incredibly annoyed. I looked at the parking space markers. It was clearly a first-come, first-served visitor spot. Since when did this spot become private? I asked the guard, who looked terrified of getting a complaint. "Mr. Chen, this is a general visitor spot. Anyone can park here. But Mr. Zhang has always parked here in the past. You arrived a bit earlier today. Mr. Zhang is hoping you can move." I noticed this spot was actually quite nice. There was a large sign overhead. That happened to block the sun perfectly. No wonder this fat guy claimed it for himself long term. "Aren't visitor spots always first come, first served?" I asked as I casually pressed my remote key, turning on the car's dash cam. The guard was also miserable. Everyone who parked here acted like they owned the place. He didn't dare offend anyone. "Maybe you could just shift it? There are plenty of open spots over there." The guard saw I was easier to talk to, but I wasn't interested. "I think this spot is just fine." I didn't want to make things hard for the guard, but I had no intention of moving my car. I didn't like the look of that fat guy. The fat man's temper flared up. "Are you trying to start something with me? Do you think I won't smash your car right now?" I laughed. "If you don't do it, you're a coward." The fat man opened his trunk and pulled out a baseball bat. He swung it twice through the air, making a whistling sound. "Apologize to me right now. If you don't, I'll kill you." "Go ahead and do it then, coward." My calm demeanor made the man shake with rage. "Damn it. Do you have a death wish? Do you even know who my father is?" The fat man leaned his greasy face in close. The pimples on his face looked like they were about to burst and fall off. "Who's your father?" "Go ask your mother." "Don't look at me. I'm only 27. I don't have a son as big as you." I pulled out a cigarette and lit it. I took a satisfying drag. Thud. The fat man swung the baseball bat down hard. He had originally aimed for my head, but I didn't even flinch. At the last second, the fat man forced the bat to veer off, smashing it into the ground instead. The recoil was immense, leaving his hands completely numb. "Anything else? If not, I'm heading up. Don't hit the ground too hard. Concrete is pretty tough." I flicked the ash off my cigarette. My expression was relaxed and full of disdain. I didn't take the fat man seriously at all. The fat man was so angry he looked like he might cough up blood. The blood rushed to his head. He raised the baseball bat and began smashing my car with all his might, as if the car were my skull. The hood and body panels were dented in. The windows were shattered. The fat man certainly had strength, and quite a temper to match. After he finished smashing it, he gave the car 2 final kicks. Having vented his rage, the fat man finally calmed down a bit. "Think you can mess with me? You're way out of your league." The security guard watched from the side, speechless. I very calmly dialed the police. Someone is smashing a car. Come quickly, someone's going to get killed. The local precinct was less than a mile away. 5 minutes later, 2 patrol cars arrived. 4 officers stepped out. Since the call mentioned a threat to life, they had sent backup. Even seeing the police, the fat man remained composed. It seemed he knew them. I could tell. This fat guy probably had some sort of connection. Otherwise, he wouldn't be this arrogant. But his connections probably weren't that powerful. Someone with real power wouldn't be working a regular job here. The police began taking photos and recording notes from various angles. They seemed very professional, doing everything by the book. Once they finished, they started asking what happened. The sequence of events was very simple. After the officers finished questioning, one of them turned off his body cam. I knew the official. Maneuvering was about to begin. This matter seems to be a civil dispute. According to Mr. Zhang's description, he's parked in this spot for a long time. No one has ever questioned it. This indicates that the usage rights for this spot belong to Mr. Zhang. Mr. Chen, it was wrong of you to occupy someone else's space. I suggest you just give Mr. Zhang some emotional compensation. Nothing major, just a symbolic few $100. And we can settle this right here. Mr. Chen, what do you think? After all, you're both educated men. A few $100 shouldn't be an issue for you. It's better not to have a criminal record. The officer's voice was very gentle. So, the fat guy's last name was Zhang. I smiled and said, "Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Zhang." Officer, are you familiar with the property management's parking regulations? I'm not sure. The officer saw my attitude and probably figured I wasn't an easy target. He immediately changed his tone. Since you aren't sure, how did this become me occupying Mr. Zhang's spot? Furthermore, who was the one who smashed the car? I stood right here and didn't even move. How exactly would I end up with a criminal record? Mr. Zhang stated that you insulted his family. His testimony is evidence. Did you ask me? Did you ask the security guard standing right there? Even if I did insult his family, it's just an insult. Not occupying his parking space. Tell me, which part of my behavior constitutes a criminal offense? Mr. Chen, please don't get upset. Officer Gus here just joined our precinct. He hasn't been out of the academy long, so he lacks experience. He was just acting out of a good-hearted desire to see you reconcile. Don't take it the wrong way. The other officer immediately stepped in to smooth things over. Let's turn the body cam back on and do this by the book. If I really committed a crime, I'll take the blame and pay the fines. Heck, you can even send me to the chair if that's what's required. My face was calm and indifferent. This made the meat-eating officer even more nervous. Years on the force had taught him that the calmer a person is, the harder they are to deal with. The fat guy, Zhang, gave a disdainful smirk. We'll see how tough you are once we get to the station. The officer opened the car door for me and the fat man to get in. I pulled out my phone. Hold on a second. I'm waiting for the recording to finish uploading. What recording? What? Recording. Both the officer and the fat man were taken aback. I turned on my dash cam. From the moment I started talking to Mr. Zhang until now, it's been recording everything. Video footage should be admissible as evidence, right? I said calmly. The fat man's face instantly paled. I'm a software engineer. I have a habit of having my dash cam files automatically upload to the cloud. The upload just finished. I have 7 different email accounts, and a copy has been sent to every single one. So you can all relax. The record won't be lost. Now we can go to the station. I proactively sat in the police car. The officer who had tried to smooth things over sat in the front. He asked me, "What brand is that dash cam? How's the recording quality?" I just received a copy on my phone. Take a look. It's quite clear. I opened the video and handed my phone to the officer. The video was 15 minutes long. The officer hadn't even finished watching it when the police car pulled up to the station. After arriving at the precinct, the 4 officers from the scene and the fat guy all watched the video. This doesn't count as intentional destruction of property, I said. I searched it online earlier. It seems that besides restitution, there's a prison sentence involved. The term isn't long. Less than 3 years of fixed-term imprisonment. I consulted the officers like a diligent student asking a teacher. We are only responsible for the report. Sentencing is outside our jurisdiction. the officer said, clearly feeling guilty. Their behavior earlier was definitely problematic. If this video were posted online, their careers in law enforcement would be over. The fat man didn't expect that his impulse would have such a massive impact. I've been played, the fat man thought to himself. Can I make a phone call home? The fat man asked. The formal interrogation hadn't started yet, so the fat man's request was granted. After waiting 10 minutes, the fat man finally walked back in. The arrogance on his face had completely vanished. It was obvious, if the video went viral. And he got doxxed. It might take down the connections he had behind him. I'm sorry, Mr. Chin. I was in a bad mood today. I'm willing to compensate you for the damages. Is $150,000 enough? The fat man seemed loaded, offering $150,000 right off the bat. I thought to myself, I'm a programmer. How could I fall for such a low-level trap? Mr. Zhang, just pay the actual replacement value. I bought the car for $25,000. After depreciation, it's worth about $20,000. The high-fidelity audio system in the car, however, was imported through a friend. It's a bit expensive, over $10,000. I can't go to work today. My salary is $5,000 a month, based on 22 working days. My daily rate is about $230. Do you need me to provide proof of income? I asked politely. If I took that $150,000, it would be extortion. With such a large amount, it would be enough to put me away for years. Listing a specific itemized claim, even if the numbers are a bit high, is just a reasonable demand. No one is an idiot here. The fat man knew he had met his match today. He finally gave up on the idea of setting me up. With the help of the officers, the two of us signed a peaceful settlement agreement. Fatty Jang compensated me a total of $55,000. He was a straightforward guy when cornered. He transferred the money immediately. 3 seconds later, I received a notification from my bank. I took the initiative to shake his hand. Pleasure doing business with you. The fat man looked like he wanted to crush my hand into a pulp. He squeezed my hand hard. You're a piece of work, man. I'm impressed. Just then my phone rang. I answered. What? East Sunrise Precinct? I'll be right there. 30 minutes, tops. I had just hung up with the East Sunrise Precinct when it rang again. Yes, that's me. Downtown Precinct? I'm busy this morning. Around 3:30 p.m. I'll definitely be there. The interrogating officer and the fat man were both stunned. What exactly did this guy do for a living? He hadn't even left one station before two others were calling him. Sorry. If we're done here, I'll be going. I offered an apologetic, smiled to the officers, and even made it a point to nod at the fat man. The fat man almost burst into tears. What kind of person did I run into? I took a cab to the East Sunrise Precinct. As soon as I walked in, I heard the familiar ruckus. Arthur and the other seniors were at the front, their voices the loudest. The old folks were fuming with righteous indignation. The moment they saw me, they grabbed my arm. That's him. Don't let him get away this time. He's the one who smashed our speakers. The precinct staff brought me and the seniors into a large office. An officer sat down to take my statement and said, We received a report stating that you used an iron hammer to destroy their speakers yesterday. You severely interfered with their legitimate recreation. I nodded. That's correct. There's a small open area in our complex, like a community park. These ladies and gentlemen like to dance, so they stripped the wires from the street lamps and made illegal, dangerous connections to play their music. Besides seniors, there are many children in the complex. If someone got electrocuted, it would be catastrophic. A child happened to be walking by right then. I was afraid the kid would get shocked. The situation was too urgent to discuss, so I smashed the speakers. So you're admitting to smashing the speakers? I am. It was far too dangerous at the time. These ladies and gentlemen are older. Honestly, they probably don't have many years left. If they get electrocuted, so be it. But we can't let the children be in danger. Doing something so reckless with a child's safety is truly immoral. Only a monster could do something like that. It really breaks my heart. And the property management is just as bad. Ignoring those loose, messy wires. I don't know where the utility company people have gone. No one even comes by to issue fines for this kind of thing. Sigh. I put on a display of profound grief, but before I could finish, the seniors were already exploding with rage. Wasn't I clearly calling them immoral monsters? Several of them considered faking a heart attack, but they looked up and saw the security cameras. There were several of them, and they were definitely recording. They had to bite their tongues. "Officer, he's lying. He just hates our dancing. He said the noise keeps him from resting. Don't believe a word he says. You're being incredibly disrespectful to your elders." Arthur finally couldn't hold back anymore. "Please do not interfere with my report. We will investigate exactly what happened. I'll get to the bottom of this. When it's your turn to give a statement, I will let you speak." The officer had a massive headache. These seniors didn't care about the rules at all. They only cared about their own fun. The officer finally finished recording the statement. "Of course, I framed the narrative around the illegal wiring, rather than the noise complaint." The officer asked who had done the illegal wiring. The seniors all started pointing fingers at each other, none of them daring to admit they were the ones who did it. The seniors actually began fighting amongst themselves. The officer took me and the seniors back to the housing complex. They found that the street lamp power source had indeed been tampered with. Someone had installed a makeshift outlet there. This proved that I was telling the truth. They called the power company to come over. The utility workers also said that such an outdoor outlet was extremely dangerous. It was prone to short-circuiting. The risk of a lethal shock would double if it rained. The outlet was placed very low, well within reach of a child. The seniors refused to admit they had installed it. In the end, neither the utility company nor the police could do anything. They simply announced that if illegal wiring was found again, the power company would issue fines, and the police would take people into custody for at least 15 days. After the police left, I flashed a victorious smile. Handling these old geezers was a piece of cake. It was already noon. Being someone who habitually saved money, I went home to cook for myself. My wife, Sarah, was sleeping like a log. Every time she drank too much, she wouldn't wake up until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. After being fired by her boss, she simply stopped working and became a full-time housewife. I went into the kitchen to boil a bowl of noodles. I planned to head into work right after eating. "Smells good." Sarah woke up and spotted the noodles. Without washing her face or hands, she sat directly at the dining table. "You loser, you didn't even set out chopsticks. Do you want me to eat with my hands?" I washed a pair of chopsticks and handed them over. "I didn't cook those for you." "Give me a break. You skipped work just to suck up to me, especially making me noodles. Come on, out with it. Is this about wanting a bigger allowance? I want a divorce." "Ha!" Sarah let out a short laugh. There wasn't a hint of humor in it. She kept her head down and continued eating. I went back and boiled another bowl for myself. The two of us finished the meal in silence. I cleared the table and did the dishes, then brought up the divorce again. "You really want to divorce me? Did you take the wrong medication or something?" Seeing that I wasn't joking, Sarah asked, with a look of genuine curiosity. I opened the nightstand drawer and pulled out my medical records, flipping to the most recent page. The doctor said, "It's terminal lung cancer. 6 months to live." When Sarah saw the diagnosis written in the report, she could hardly believe her eyes. It took several minutes before she finally burst into tears. It turned out this woman actually cared about me a little bit. I felt like crying too. Something hard and cold inside me began to slowly melt. Sarah suddenly threw herself into my arms, clinging to me tightly. "I'm so sorry, honey. I'm truly, truly sorry. I've shown you so little care." My eyes welled up with tears. "It's okay. Things are already like this. What's the point of an apology now? Do we really have to divorce?" Sarah looked up, her eyes blurred with tears. "Yes. I plan to sell the house and the car. I'll leave half for my father's retirement and give the rest to you. If we divorce, it'll be easier for you to find someone else. If I die while we're still married, the reputation of being a widow won't be good for you. I'm not doing it. Do whatever you want. I have to go to the police station now." "If I won't divorce you, you're going to the police?" Sarah suspected my cancer wasn't in my lungs, but in my brain. "You probably won't be able to use the car for the next couple of days. Someone smashed it. It's being repaired." Sarah's mind couldn't quite keep up. 1 minute, it's the police. The next, it's a smashed car. What kind of drama was unfolding? At the Longwood precinct, the officer who received me checked his watch. "Mr. Chen, the other party isn't here yet. Why don't you give your statement first? I nodded. Someone reported that near Longwood Park, you stole his phone. Your face was recorded. Is this true? Is this true? I explained exactly what had happened. I was leaving the hospital and passing through Longwood Park. I saw a bench by the road and sat down to rest. A phone on the bench started ringing, which is how I noticed it. The person on the other end didn't even let me speak. They just accused me of stealing it. Then they demanded I hand-deliver it to them. Of course I wasn't going to do that. I moved the phone to a different spot. I have no idea what happened after that. The two officers taking the notes looked at each other, clearly suspecting I was lying, but they had nothing to go on. Anything else you need to ask? If not, I'm heading to work. That's all. Give it another 10 minutes. The reporter might just be running late. I checked the time, feeling a bit impatient. The appointment was for 3:00. Why didn't you have him come earlier? We asked him to be here by 2050, the officer explained. Fine, I'll wait 10 more minutes. Seeing the officer's frustrated expression, I felt a bit of sympathy for him. Thank you for your understanding, Mr. Chen. If every citizen our precinct dealt with was as cooperative as you, we'd all live 10 years longer on average. The officer's opinion of me improved instantly. Knowing I had a steady job, owned a home, and a car, they were basically convinced I was being framed. At 3040, the reporter still hadn't shown up. The two officers saw me to the door. I'd barely sat down at my desk at the office when the phone rang again. Mr. Chen, the reporter is here. Is it convenient for you to come to the precinct now? I'm at work. Understood. We won't disturb you then. Just as he was about to hang up, I suddenly heard a shrill voice in the background. You heard him. He's the thief. He's only scared to come because he stole my phone. Go arrest him right now. Is your brain full of mush? Go get him immediately. Watch out, or I'll make sure you all regret this. I almost laughed out loud, calling the police incompetent and threatening their jobs. This woman was a once-in-a-century character. After hanging up, I went to the conference room to ask my manager for time off. The moment I said I needed leave, all my colleagues looked at me in disbelief. The manager running the meeting nearly jumped out of his seat. Leave? The project is at a critical stage. What kind of leave are you taking? Vacation time. I haven't taken a day off in 3 years. It's accumulated to 21 days total. With weekends included, it's exactly a month I don't have to be at work. The project manager was furious. You're the lead developer on this project. If you take leave, the entire project will be delayed. I've never treated you poorly, have I? The manager was right. To get me a better salary, he'd even gone as far as arguing with the boss. I don't want to hide it from everyone anymore. I have cancer. Terminal lung cancer. The doctor said the average survival rate is 6 months. If it spreads, I'll be gone in 3. After I use up this vacation time, I'm resigning. My words shocked everyone even more than a resignation would have. We were good colleagues. Please enjoy your lives. I wish you all less overtime and more raises. And try not to smoke, I said with a smile. It was a somewhat bleak smile. My colleagues were silent. The project manager silently removed me from the development resources. I started writing the handoff documentation. I wanted to finish on a good note. After all, this company had treated me very well. A new executive is coming for a meeting today. Are you going? A colleague came over to ask. No, I'm working on the handoff documents. 2 hours later, Sarah called. Honey, I'm here to pick you up from work. I was a bit surprised. This was the first time she'd ever come to the office to pick me up. I replied that it was fine, then grabbed my laptop to leave the office. Just then, a stranger suddenly appeared in the development department. He fixed his gaze on me. You must be Arthur Chen. I was confused. Who was this guy? I responded politely. Yes, I'm Arthur Chen. I'm Thomas Tan. You didn't attend the department meeting, did you? I immediately realized who he was. This was the new head of the development department. Hello. Do you have a moment? I want to discuss with you why the project was delayed for over a month. I've spoken with everyone else in the team. Except you, I said apologetically. I'm sorry. I have something to take care of today. I need to get home with my wife. Thomas Tan sneered. He had already researched everyone's personalities, temperaments, and abilities before coming here. The evaluation he got on me was, Strong developer. Doesn't talk much. Weak-willed. Weak-willed. He raised his voice significantly, clearly intending for everyone in the department to hear him. It's still working hours. I don't care what your personal business is. You must stay and discuss work. The developers all looked up from their desks, staring at Thomas Tan. Everyone was worried for me. I understood what was happening. The new leader wanted to establish dominance. He was trying to make an example out of me. What are the official working hours for this department? I asked Thomas Tan. I had already checked the time. Company policy states 9,000 a.m. to 6,000 p.m. It's only 5,045 right now. How many years have you been with this company? You don't even know the start and end times for a shift? Thomas Tan raised his voice again, his tone laced with suppressed fury. The project manager stepped in to smooth things over. Mr. Tan, Arthur hasn't been feeling well lately. His wife is here to pick him up. Thomas Tan shot a look at the project manager. For your sake, Leo, I won't press the issue with him right now. Now, follow me to the conference room immediately. We need to discuss why the last project was delayed. I adjusted my laptop bag, sent a quick text to Sarah, asking her to wait for me for a few minutes, and then followed him into the conference room. Once we were both seated, I took out my phone, set it to silent, and placed it on the table. Thomas Tan saw me silence my phone, and looked satisfied. He remarked, "A meeting should be treated with proper professional conduct. I don't know why you didn't attend the General Assembly earlier today. I'll let it slide this once, but you must attend the next one." I spoke up. "Mr. Tan, didn't you say you wanted to ask me why the project was delayed?" Thomas Tan didn't expect me to be so blunt. He asked, "Well, why was it delayed?" The schedule was set based on the workload. The workload was estimated based on the requirements. You can go to the server yourself and pull the requirements from when the plan was made, then compare them to the final requirements. As for why the project was delayed, isn't the reason blindingly obvious? For something so simple, do you really need to have individual meetings with everyone? Isn't that just wasting company resources? The words coming out of my mouth were completely outside Thomas Tan's expectations. I was clearly implying that, as a leader, he didn't even understand basic common sense. I didn't wait for Thomas Tan to respond. I checked the time on my phone. It was exactly 6:00 p.m. "Mr. Tan, it's 6:00. I'm off the clock. Goodbye." Having said that, I slung my laptop bag over my shoulder and opened the door. I walked out with my head held high, leaving Thomas Tan staring at my back. Thomas Tan was fuming with rage. His lips were literally trembling. In all his years of working, this was the first time he had met someone so defiant. To be challenged by a subordinate so brazenly, it left him with no dignity. Thomas Tan stormed out of the room, intending to chase me down and give me a piece of his mind, but I was already in the elevator. Seeing Thomas Tan rushing toward me, I gave him a small wave and a serene smile. That smile burned itself into Thomas Tan's memory, like a thorn piercing his heart, leaving him feeling utterly humiliated. Arthur Chen must be fired. Thomas Tan roared in fury. Since the car wasn't fixed yet, Sarah and I took the bus home. This was the first time the two of us had ever taken the bus together. I was sitting in a window seat. An old lady boarded and came right up to me. "I want to sit in this seat," she said. I was taken aback. Thinking there were no other seats available, I was about to stand up and give it to her, but then I saw several empty seats nearby and stopped. I reminded the old woman, "Ma'am, there are plenty of empty seats over there. Hurry up and move. What's wrong with you, young man? I told you to give me your seat, so stop with the nonsense. Those seats aren't by the window. I don't like them. Move. I can't keep my balance. I don't know who taught this driver how to drive. It's swaying so much." The old lady was holding a plastic bag in one hand, filled with 3 or 4 apples. Her other hand gripped the back of the chair. She looked quite healthy, and moved with plenty of agility. I usually give up my seat for others. I spend so much time sitting in the office that sometimes I prefer to stand even when seats are open. Maybe the senior just wanted to see the view outside. I prepared to stand up, to give the window seat to the old woman. Suddenly, the plastic bag in the old woman's hand slammed directly into the side of my head. "If you don't move, do you want me to hit you again?" The old lady's face was flushed red. I was stunned. This senior actually resorted to physical violence. The apples in her plastic bag made my head throb with a dull ache. When you're having bad luck, Even drinking water can get stuck in your teeth. I realized I had been running into lunatics constantly these past 2 days. It was clearly a sign that I was cursed with misfortune. I wasn't sure if it was good luck or bad luck, though, because I realized the old lady's strength wasn't that great. The apples hitting my head hurt a bit, but it actually felt more like a relief. As a programmer who looks at screens all day, my neck and head are constantly tense. After being hit, it felt like a massage. I said, "Since you're so energetic, I'm definitely not giving you my seat. Your swing is a bit weak anyway." I made that one comment, then pulled out my phone to read a web novel. The old lady was clearly provoked by my words, and her anger flared. She lifted the bag and swung it at my head again. I tilted my head, and the vigorous old lady hit me square in the back. She put a lot more force into it this time. It actually felt incredibly comfortable. The woman started hurling insults, her mouth full of filth. I took out my headphones, put them on, and started listening to music. I even started humming along to the rhythm. This sent the old lady into a complete meltdown. Fury practically shot out of her nostrils. She clutched the bag and delivered several consecutive blows to my back, leaving me feeling quite grateful to her. The people around us couldn't stand it anymore. "Ma'am, take my seat. Stop hitting him. You've hit him so many times and he hasn't even fought back." A student was sitting in another window seat nearby. The young man took the initiative to offer his seat to the senior. "Mind your own business. Today, I'm going to teach this disrespectful brat a lesson. I'm doing his parents a favor by disciplining him. Our traditional values are being destroyed by people like him." The old lady panted as she scolded us, then gripped the bag with both hands, preparing for one massive final blow. The student said indignantly, "He hasn't even laid a finger on you, and he hasn't said a mean word. What more do you want? If you say another word, I'll hit you too." When the old lady got hateful, she lost all reason. She would take down anyone in her path. The student looked a bit aggrieved. Clearly, he hadn't been hardened by society yet. He couldn't even handle a situation like this. His eyes were turning red. I looked out the window and saw our stop was coming up. I stood up and gave the old lady a wicked grin. "You've got decent strength. Hitting my shoulders like that felt great. Better than a massage at the spa." "Thanks." How could the old lady handle such an insult? She gripped the bag with both hands, raising it high to smash me with everything she had, intending to give me something to remember for the rest of my life. The bus began to slow down as it entered the station. Because she was holding the bag with both hands, she wasn't holding the handrail. She pitched forward. With nothing to grab onto, the momentum sent her flying toward the front of the bus. Her head slammed against the base of a seat. The old lady's eyes rolled back, and she lost consciousness. I didn't notice what happened to her. As soon as the doors opened, Sarah and I quickly stepped off the bus. I vaguely heard some gasps of shock from inside the vehicle, but we didn't pay it any mind. We bought some groceries and went home. Sarah offered to cook dinner. This was the first time she had cooked in 3 years. Even though everything was burnt and I had to redo it all, I still felt a slight touch of emotion. After eating, she volunteered to do the dishes. After she broke a few plates, I silently cleaned up the kitchen myself. Then, I said to Sarah, "I've printed out the divorce papers. If everything looks okay, just sign them. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow." Outside, there were no blaring speakers from square dancers. Upstairs, there were no kids jumping rope. The entire apartment was incredibly quiet. Sarah. She briefly looked over the divorce agreement I gave her. "Where do I sign?" "I've already signed my part." Sarah wrote her name down. She smiled and said, "My handwriting isn't as nice as yours." I smiled back. "As long as you're pretty, it's fine." The two of us sat on the sofa and watched TV until very late. Sarah's face was covered in tears. She couldn't hold back her crying anymore. "Can we just not get divorced?" Sarah asked. "It's time to sleep," I said. The next morning, the two of us went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with the agreement. We handed our marriage certificates to the clerk. The bright red certificates were taken back and replaced with dark red divorce certificates. The red of the divorce certificate was even deeper than the marriage one. I went straight to the company. Back at my desk, I planned to finish writing the handoff details. Just then, Chloe, the department secretary, came to call for a meeting. Everyone put down their work and filtered into the conference room in small groups. Thomas Tan sat at the head of the conference table, his expression grim. The employees coming in had been chatting and laughing, but as soon as they saw Thomas Tan's face, they sensed something was wrong, and turned serious too. The atmosphere in the room immediately became stifling. I chose a seat in the corner of the room. For these kinds of big meetings, I always picked the least conspicuous spot. Thomas Tan cleared his throat twice. Yesterday, I held a general meeting for the entire department, and I spoke with developers from several key projects. The vast majority of our staff are professional and dedicated. I am very happy to work with so many excellent colleagues. However, there are a very small number of employees who are half-hearted and irresponsible. They don't even reflect when a project is delayed. Their ability to make excuses is quite impressive. They arrive late and leave early. Such employees are the black sheep of this company. As for exactly who they are, the data makes it crystal clear. This is the entry card swipe record for the development department. Thomas Tan projected his laptop screen onto the wall. The wall showed a list of how many times people were late. The company didn't have a strict attendance system. Especially for the development department, no one really tracked it. The data was based purely on the time. Employees swiped their cards to enter the building. Sitting right at the top of the late list was Arthur Chen. Last month, not only was Arthur late numerous times, but there were no swipe records for half of his working days. Arthur, how do you explain this? Thomas Tan questioned me in front of everyone. I looked at Thomas Tan like he was a complete moron. Explain what? Why have you been late so many times? And why are there so many days with no clock and record? This is truancy. According to company policy, missing work more than 3 times is grounds for dismissal. I stood up and said, "So you're saying the previous leaders were all idiots? I skipped work that many times and they didn't fire me, right?" Thomas Tan's neck turned bright red, and his forehead pulsed with blood. Under the lights, his forehead was shiny and glistening. He had intended to use me to establish his authority. But seeing how defiant I was, he felt humiliated in front of everyone. He almost lost his composure on the spot. I don't care how the previous management handled things. It won't fly under my watch. I'm giving you one more chance to explain yourself publicly. If you don't make it clear, you're fired immediately. Thomas Tan took a deep breath, trying to suppress the rage in his chest. I sat down and didn't say a single word. My attitude was obvious. I'm not wasting my breath on a moron. Arthur Chen, you're fired. Pack your things and get out, Thomas Tan barked. Mr. Tan, even if you fire me, you still have to give me my termination papers. Thank you, I replied calmly. It nearly drove Thomas Tan to a heart attack. Chloe, the secretary, whispered a few words to Thomas Tan and then announced the end of the meeting. I ignored the prying eyes of my colleagues. I opened my laptop, logged into my development account, and pulled up the code commit logs. I took screenshots of the past year's submission logs and saved them. Then I exported the logs and sent them to my private email. 15 minutes later, someone from HR came to notify me of my dismissal. They handed me a form to sign. Termination. The reason given was that over the past year, I had accumulated a total of 51 days of unexcused absences. There were 2 copies of the notice. I signed both. After HR stamped them, I packed up my things and left the company immediately. Back at home, I opened my laptop, took screenshots of my code submission logs from the server, and downloaded them. I took a photo of the termination notice with my phone, uploaded it to the computer, and started writing an email. My name is Arthur Chen. I was fired today. The reason cited was that I was truant for 51 days over the past year. The company uses card swipe records to determine if an employee is at work. For those 51 working days, I have no swipe records. That is because I was working overtime continuously at the office and never left the building. Attached are my code commit records, which clearly show the time the code was submitted. Some are at 2000 a.m. Others are at 11:00 p.m. The code server is located within the company, physically isolated from the external network. Therefore, it is impossible for me to have submitted code from home. The IP address used for submission is also the company's internal network. After describing the facts, I didn't make any demands. I sent the email to the HR director and several colleagues in the HR department. After sending the email, I felt a tightness in my chest. I lay flat on the sofa, staring at the ceiling light. It wasn't on, so it didn't shine. It looked lifeless, just like a corpse. My ex-wife Sarah wasn't home. I wondered if she went back to her parents' house. Once the chest tightness passed, I took out the 7 or 8 bottles of medication from the hospital. Following the instructions for dosage, I shook out a few pills and tossed them into my mouth, washing them down with water. The sugar coating of the medicine left a faint sweetness on my tongue. Even taking medicine could be sweet, just like life sweetness often masks the bitterness underneath. My phone rang. It was someone from the company's HR. The girl from HR had a very pleasant voice. "Arthur, our director saw your email. Could you come into the office for a moment? I'm not feeling well. I plan to travel out of town to clear my head, so I won't be coming in. It's like this. The company's decision to fire you was a bit hasty. We haven't discussed the severance package. I wanted you to come in to sign a compensation agreement." "No need. I've already sent the relevant documents to Red Oak's law firm. They'll be meeting with me shortly to sign the representation agreement. I'll have my lawyer handle the negotiations." There was a few seconds of silence on the line. The HR girl said, "How about you wait just a moment? I'll relay your current situation to the management." "Sure." Of course. I hadn't contacted any law firm. It was a bluff. My goal wasn't just to make Thomas Tan suffer, but also to secure benefits for myself and my colleagues in the development department. The 7 teams in the department always had a good relationship. I didn't have any strong feelings toward Thomas Tan one way or the other. I just wanted to make sure Thomas Tan understood that his arrogance had consequences. The phone rang again shortly after. It was the HR director this time. He sounded much more serious. Leaders and subordinates should just leave each other be. Don't think that just because you're the boss, you can treat your employees however you want. In less than 10 minutes, the girl from HR called again. "Just tell us your demands directly," she said. "There's no need to involve a lawyer," management said. "They'll try to accommodate you," I said. "First, have Thomas Tan send a company-wide email admitting that firing me was a mistake. Second, have Thomas Tan hold a meeting in the development department to publicly apologize to me." "I'll pass that along," she replied. "I want to know the result by 6:30 p.m. If I don't hear back, I'll assume the company has rejected my terms." After hanging up, I felt refreshed and sharp. I wasn't sure if it was the medication working, or if it was because the firing situation was going exactly as I had expected. I didn't even have to wait until 6:30. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered and recognized Thomas Tan's voice. "Arthur, this is Thomas Tan. I'm calling to apologize. I didn't fully understand the situation. Before I made the decision to terminate you, I was in the wrong, and I want to offer you my sincere apologies. When you fired me, it was public. I expect the apology to be public as well. I have already rescinded the termination notice. I hope you'll come back to work. I already have a new job. Don't worry about me coming back. And I don't accept your apology, because it wasn't public." With that, I took the initiative to hang up. Thomas Tan was so angry he nearly crushed his phone. "If you want to quit, then quit. You're intentionally trying to provoke me." I looked at the black screen of my phone, my lips curling into a cold, joyless smile. Of course, there was no new job, but saying that would make Thomas Tan feel even worse. People like him can't stand losing control, especially when someone they look down on turns the tables and takes charge of the situation. That feeling of chest tightness started creeping back in. I walked to the window and pushed it open. The early autumn wind carried a chill as it rushed in, diluting the stifling smell of medicine in the room. It was very quiet downstairs. The corpses of the square dance speakers had been cleared away yesterday, leaving nothing but an empty patch of concrete. Those old folks hadn't shown up again either, likely terrified of the fines and detention threats from the power company. The sound of jumping rope from upstairs had vanished as well. It seemed that couple had finally learned what disturbing the peace meant. Good. The world was finally at peace. My phone buzzed again. It was a text from the bank. The $55,000 compensation from the fat guy was sitting in my account, every cent of it. Adding that to my previous savings, the money from selling the car, and the portion I had set aside for Sarah, but hadn't touched yet, I was actually quite well off right now. It turns out that when you stop caring, money actually comes easily. The door lock turned. Sarah pushed the door open and walked in, carrying several grocery bags from the supermarket. She saw me standing by the window and paused for a second. Placing the bags in the entryway, she said, I went out to get some groceries. Her tone was a bit forced, her eyes shifting away. What do you want for dinner tonight? I'll try to learn how to make it. No need. I walked back to the sofa and sat down. He signed the papers. We're done. You don't have to do this. Sarah bit her lip. On that refined face of hers, a look that was almost helpless appeared for the first time. Arthur, is there really no chance for us anymore? I know how I was before, but you're sick now. I can take care of you. And then what? I looked at her. Wait for me to die. So you can inherit the estate as my widow. And earn some sympathy while you're at it? Sarah, let's not make this ugly. I'm a man of my word regarding the half share of the money, from selling the house and the car. But don't go thinking about anything else. Her face went pale instantly. Not from sadness, but from the fury of having her motives exposed. Arthur Chen, what kind of person do you take me for? What kind of person? I laughed. I was married to you for over 2 years. Isn't it obvious enough by now? Fine, just pack your things. I'm planning to list this house. Whether you go back to your parents or rent a place is up to you. Sarah stood there, her chest heaving. Finally, she gave me a vicious glare, stormed into the bedroom, and began noisily packing her things. I ignored her. I opened my laptop to browse local real estate sites and started contacting agents to list the house. Around 3:00 p.m., there was a knock at the door. It wasn't Sarah's emotional pounding, but a few controlled, rhythmic knocks. I opened the door. 2 police officers were standing outside. They looked familiar. They were the 2 who handled the square dancing incident at the precinct this morning. The older one was Officer Lee, and the younger one was Officer Miller. Mr. Chen, sorry to bother you again. Officer Lee looked quite serious after those seniors went home this morning. One of them, Arthur, the leader, suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage and is in the hospital. My heart skipped a beat, but my face remained expressionless. What does that have to do with me? His family filed a report, claiming it was caused by you making him angry. Officer Miller added, carefully watching my reaction. They said you insulted the seniors at the station, which caused him to get agitated and triggered the illness. I nearly laughed out of pure frustration. Every word I said at the station was recorded on surveillance, wasn't it? Which part was an insult? Saying their illegal wiring was dangerous? Saying it's bad if a child gets shocked? That's an insult? If they hadn't messed with the wires, would this even be happening? The 2 officers exchanged a look. Officer Lee sighed. Mr. Chen, logic-wise, you're right. But the fact is, the man is in the hospital, and his condition is poor. The family is very emotional, and is demanding an explanation. We're here to ask you to come down, to provide a statement. It would be best if you could communicate with the family. I'm not going, I replied flatly. I'm not responsible, and I have no obligation to appease unreasonable family members. If they want to sue me, tell them to go to court. I'll pay whatever the court orders me to pay. But asking me to face them at the hospital right now? I'm afraid they'll be the ones to aggravate my condition. I'm sick too. Terminal lung cancer. The doctor says I only have a few months left. How about we see who drops dead from anger first? The 2 officers were left speechless by my bluntness. Officer Lee frowned. Mr. Chen, that's quite a... It's the truth. I pulled out my medical records, flipped to the diagnosis page, and handed it to them. I don't have much time left, and I don't want to waste it on petty squabbles. If you're here to summon me, show me the paperwork. If not, please leave. I need to rest. In the end, the police didn't say anything else, and left. They probably knew that blaming me for this was a stretch, but because the family was making such a scene, they had to go through the motions. After closing the door, a cold sweat broke out on my back. It wasn't fear. My body was just weak. I had been running on pure willpower just now, and now that I'd relaxed, the fatigue and pain came rushing in. I slumped on the sofa for a long time to recover. In the bedroom, the sound of Sarah packing had stopped. She walked out and looked at me, her gaze complicated. Are you really not afraid? She asked. Afraid of what? I kept my eyes closed. Afraid of dying? I'm already dying. Afraid of trouble? Look at me. What trouble could possibly be bigger than death? Sarah remained silent for a long time. Finally, she said softly, I'll move out tomorrow. With that, she turned and went back to the bedroom. The next morning, Sarah left with 2 large suitcases. We didn't say goodbye. The sound of the door closing was very soft. Looking at the house, which suddenly felt much more spacious, I didn't feel much of anything. Instead, I felt a sense of relief. A toxic relationship like that should have ended a long time ago. The real estate agent I contacted arrived quickly to take photos and listed the house. The location was good, and I set the price slightly below market value. I just wanted to get it off my hands quickly. In the afternoon, I went to the dealership. The smashed car was still being repaired, but I bought a brand new car off the lot. A standard domestic SUV, paid in full for over $20,000. I didn't have many requirements, except that I wanted it fast and with the best dashcam. The kind with remote cloud upload. Fool me once, shame on you. Just as I drove the new car back into the complex, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar local number. Hello? Is this Mr. Arthur Chen? A woman's voice came through, sounding like she was on the verge of tears. That's me. Who's calling? I'm Tiffany, your neighbor from downstairs. The woman's voice choked up. Mr. Chen, I'm begging you, please help me. Those old men and women, they're blocking my front door. They said I took their fruit, so I have to pay them back. They're even demanding I pay for their speakers. My husband is away on business, and I'm home all alone. I'm so scared. My brow furrowed. What was all this about? They were picking on the weak and went after Tiffany. Call the police, I said. I did, she replied. The police came and talked them away. But as soon as the cops left, they came right back. They aren't shouting or anything. They're just sitting in the hallway making snide comments. The building management won't do anything. Mr. Chen, I know it was wrong of me to constantly bother you for help before. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Can you please come over and say something to them? They seem to be afraid of you. Tiffany was sobbing hysterically. I didn't want to get involved, but even though Tiffany was a bit of a moocher, she didn't deserve this. Those old geezers picking on someone they thought was easy really made my blood boil. Hold on. I hung up the phone and didn't go upstairs yet. I grabbed a heavy flashlight from the trunk of the new car and headed up. Sure enough, in my building, on the 5th floor hallway where Tiffany lived, about 7 or 8 old men and women were either sitting or standing around. They were part of the same square dancing crowd from yesterday. Arthur, the leader, wasn't there. Taking the lead instead was an old woman named Mrs. Snyder. She had a sharp, narrow face and a mean look in her eyes. They visibly flinched when they saw me, but seeing as they had the advantage in numbers, they puffed out their chests. Oh? Look, it's that violent thug who smashes people's property. What, are you going to hit senior citizens now? Mrs. Snyder made the first move, her voice shrill and piercing. I ignored her and looked at Tiffany, who was cowering by her door, with red, swollen eyes. What did they do to you? They said that the fruit from yesterday was a voluntary gift from me, not part of your compensation. They're demanding I pay for the speakers, $100 each. They even said I lured them there to move stuff, just to humiliate them. Tiffany grew more aggrieved the more she spoke. I turned back to look at the group of seniors. I'm the one who smashed the speakers. If you want money, come to me. What do you think you're doing blocking someone's door? Unlawful entry and threatening someone is enough to get you detained. Do I need to call the police again? This time, I'm recording everything. I waved my phone at them. Who are you trying to scare? One old man stuck his neck out. We're in the public hallway. How is that unlawful entry? We're old and got tired from walking. Can't we sit for a bit? Sure, I nodded. I walked over to Tiffany's door, aiming my phone at them. Then by all means, keep sitting. I'll stay with you. I'll also give the local news station a call. I'll tell them a group of concerned seniors is worried about the safety of a woman living alone, so they've organized a 24-hour volunteer hallway watch. Through rain or shine, it's truly heartwarming. I'll have the reporters come for an interview. Let's spread some of that positive energy. The faces of the old men and women changed. They could act like bullies in private, but if they were exposed on TV, their children would be humiliated. You thug! Mrs. Snyder cursed. I'm nothing compared to you all. I sneered. Yesterday, your illegal wiring almost killed a child. Today, you're blocking a door to bully a woman. You sure have a lot of positive energy. Arthur Chen? Don't push it. Old Arthur is in the hospital because of you. If anything happens to him, you're a murderer, another old man roared. Ward! He brought that on himself. None of my business. My tone was ice cold. I'll say it one more time. If you want compensation, come to me. I'll pay whatever the court orders. But if you harass my neighbor again, smashing speakers will be the least of your worries. I have nothing to lose. I don't have much time left anyway. I'm happy to take a few of you down with me. I meant every word, and it sounded murderous. Coupled with my flat, dead eyes, those seniors were finally terrified. They started exchanging glances, muttering profanities under their breath, as they slowly began to shuffle toward the stairs. Wait. I stopped them. They turned back nervously. I looked at Mrs. Snyder. The fruit you took from Tiffany yesterday? We'll call it $20 per family for the hassle. Pay up right now via Venmo. I pointed to the QR code on Tiffany's door that she used for deliveries. This is robbery, Mrs. Snyder shrieked. Don't pay then. Fine. I raised my phone. I'll just take the footage of you stealing fruit yesterday, and the footage of you blocking the store today, and make a compilation. I'll post it in the neighborhood group, the local forums, and I'll tag your children's workplaces. Let's see if $20 is more important than their reputations. The seniors were shaking with rage, but under my gaze, they each reluctantly pulled out their phones and scanned Tiffany's code. Tiffany's phone began chiming nonstop with payment notifications. She stared at the alerts, completely dumbfounded. The seniors slunk away in disgrace. The hallway returned to silence. Tiffany looked at me, and her tears started falling again, this time from relief and gratitude. Mr. Chen, thank you. Truly, thank you. I'll transfer the money to... Don't. You earned it. I waved my hand. Have some backbone from now on. People prey on the weak. Back in my own apartment, I had just sat down when my phone rang again. This time, it was the company's HR director. Mr. Chen, this is Director Lewis. Regarding your departure, our senior management takes this very seriously. Mr. Tan's handling of the situation was indeed inappropriate. We have already disciplined him internally. The company sincerely hopes you can return. We can discuss both your position and your salary. If you really don't want to come back, we are also willing to provide a reasonable severance package. We're looking at a standard of salary plus 3 months. What do you think? The attitude had done a complete 180-degree turn. It seemed my email and the bluff about the lawyer had worked. The company was afraid I would actually make a scene and damage their reputation, and even more afraid that my overtime records would become a weapon for other employees to follow. Fine, but I have 2 conditions, I said calmly. First, the 3-month severance must be calculated based on my average income over the last 12 months, including bonuses. Second, Thomas Tam must send a public email to the entire development department, admitting his judgment on my attendance was based on incomplete information, was handled improperly, and apologizing to me. Send a copy of the email to me. If these 2 conditions are met, I'll sign the agreement and waive all rights to future legal action. Silence followed on the other end for a few seconds. Mr. Chen, the first point is no problem. As for the second, Mr. Tan is management after all. A public apology might. Then there's nothing to talk about. I cut him off. My time is very precious. I don't want to waste it. You might have a legal department, but I can hire a lawyer too. Dragging this out won't cost me anything. The same can't be said for the company. Fine. I'll try my best to coordinate. Please wait a moment. Half an hour later, I received 2 new messages in my inbox. One was the formal severance compensation agreement sent by HR. Agreement. The amount was even slightly higher than I had anticipated. The sender of the other email was Thomas Tan. It was CC'd to the entire development department and several executives. The subject line was, Apology. Regarding the improper handling of colleague Arthur Chen. The content of the statement was very brief, but the meaning was clear. He admitted to failing to properly verify the facts, and that making the decision to fire me based solely on keycard records was too hasty. He acknowledged Arthur Chen's contributions to the company and expressed apology for the distress caused. One could practically sense him gnashing his teeth between the lines, but he had sent it nonetheless. I smiled to myself. I signed the electronic agreement. Not long after I sent it back to HR, a generous severance payment hit my account. Looking at the growing numbers in my bank balance, I suddenly felt a bit ridiculous. I had lived for over 20 years. Being cautious, swallowing my pride, and I had gained nothing. Since being diagnosed and letting loose, in less than a week, the house is almost sold, the car is upgraded, and my savings have multiplied several times. The world really does specialize in curing those who are too compliant. It fears the man who doesn't care about his life. A few days later, the house sale went through smoothly. The price was good. I moved out. I rented a fully furnished apartment in a quiet neighborhood. On the outskirts of the city, the high-rise unit had an open view. The key was that it had a private elevator foyer. Fewer neighbors meant less trouble. I transferred most of the money to my father back in my hometown. I told him it was from project bonuses and investment profits. I told him not to be stingy with spending it. My father was so happy on the phone he became incoherent, reminding me repeatedly to take care of my health. I didn't tell him about my illness. I'll keep it from him as long as I can. Life suddenly became extremely quiet. No work to go to. No annoying neighbors or wife? I woke up naturally every day. I took my medicine, read books, and played on the computer. Occasionally, I'd drive out and wander aimlessly. My chest still hurt sometimes. My coughing became more frequent. Blood began to appear in my phlegm. I knew time was slipping away bit by bit, but I didn't feel much fear. Instead, there was a strange sense of peace, like standing on the shore watching the tide slowly rise, knowing it will eventually submerge me, but before that happens, I can still look at the sky and feel the breeze. Then, a week later, I received another call from the police station. This time, it wasn't Officer Lee or Officer Miller. The person identified themselves as being from the Criminal Investigation Division. Mr. Arthur Chen? We need your assistance with an investigation. It's regarding the theft of a cell phone at Longwood Park. The complainant, Miss Lisa Zhang, was found dead in her home yesterday. Initial investigation suggests homicide. I was stunned. Lisa Zhang? That was the phone dropping. Accusatory fat woman who framed me for being a thief. She's dead? What does her death have to do with me? I asked in a deep voice. We found in the victim's call records that she called your number multiple times before her death, accompanied by threatening remarks. Additionally, based on the preliminary time of death, it's estimated to be 3 days ago in the afternoon. During that time, we reviewed the apartment surveillance and found a car of a similar model and color to your previously damaged vehicle near the victim's complex. We need you to come in and cooperate with the investigation. I took a deep breath, suppressing the itch in my throat and the irritation in my heart. Officer, 3 days ago in the afternoon, I was at the hospital for a follow-up. After that, I went to a law firm for a consultation. I have a complete alibi. As for my car, 3 days ago it was still at the dealership being repaired. It was smashed to bits. It couldn't be driven at all. If you check the repair records and the dealership's surveillance, you'll know. Furthermore, the dispute over Ms. Lisa Zhang's phone happened much earlier. The Longwood precinct should have a record. I cooperated with the investigation at the time, but the complainant never showed up, so it was dropped. There was only that one unpleasant phone call between us. No other contact whatsoever. The officer on the phone didn't relax his tone. Mr. Chen, we will verify everything you've said. But in a homicide investigation, you need to come in personally to make a detailed statement and clarify some details. We hope you will cooperate. I'll cooperate. Send me the address. I'll head over now. I knew I couldn't avoid it. The more I resisted, the more suspicious I'd look. I hung up, put on my coat, grabbed my medical records, the repair receipt for my car, and my phone. I drove to the district sub-bureau where the investigation team was located. On the way, I thought about Lisa Zhang's death. Murdered? Who would kill her? Over that phone? The phone I'd already smashed to pieces? She must have had other enemies. Damn it, I'm literally just minding my own business, and trouble keeps finding me. At the sub-bureau, I was met by a detective in his 30s, named Detective Zhao. He had sharp eyes, and was strictly business. He led me into an interrogation room, and began the routine questioning. I recounted everything from finding the phone outside the hospital, to being framed by Lisa Zhang and her boyfriend, my angry destruction of the phone, going to the precinct, and the fact that she never showed up for the confrontation. I told the story exactly as it happened. I also provided my medical records, the repair work order from the dealership, and the record on my phone. Of the appointment for my consultation at the law firm, Detective Zhao took notes, while having his colleagues verify. The information I provided: Mr. Chen, according to our understanding, your behavior has been rather aggressive lately. Detective Zhao flipped through a tablet in his hand, which seemed to contain some records. For example, smashing the square dance speakers, clashing with neighbors, and having a dispute in a parking lot. That led to someone smashing your car. You're well informed. I nodded. It's because I was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. I don't have much time left, and I didn't want to live as miserably as I did before. But these matters are separate. They all had causes and consequences. The precinct has records. I paid the compensation I owed. I wouldn't commit murder over a verbal argument. Our investigation shows that Lisa Zhang had a rather complicated social network. She had debt disputes and held grudges with people. Detective Zhao changed the subject. Her boyfriend is named Ryan Liu. He has a criminal record and a violent temper. The two of them fought constantly. After the day of the phone dispute, they had another huge argument over something else. Ryan Liu physically assaulted Lisa Zhang. Neighbors called the police, and Ryan Liu has been missing since. We are currently looking for him. I understood. I wasn't the only direction of the police investigation. Ryan Liu was a much bigger suspect. Bringing me in was likely a routine check, either because I was in her call logs or to clear me as a suspect. So, you suspect Ryan Liu? Is every relevant person being checked? I asked. Detective Zhao didn't give a direct answer. You said earlier that Lisa Zhang threatened you over the phone, saying she'd make sure you go to jail? Right? Both she and that Ryan Liu had a lot of attitude, like they had some kind of backing. I recalled, but I didn't take it seriously. Detective Zhao seemed lost in thought. Just then, a colleague came in and whispered a few words to him. Detective Zhao nodded and looked at me. Mr. Chen, the alibi and vehicle information you provided. We've done a preliminary verification. Everything seems to check out. The dealership surveillance and repair records show that your car was indeed in the shop at that time. The records from the hospital and law firm match as well. Thank you for your cooperation. There are no other questions for now. However, until the case is solved, please keep your phone on and reachable, and try not to leave the city. Understood? I stood up. Detective Zhao, can I ask how Lisa Zhang died? Of course, if it's not convenient, you don't have to say. Detective Zhao shot me a glance. Initial findings suggest blunt force trauma to the head. Time of death was approximately 3 days ago, between 200 p.m. and 4:00 p.m. There were signs of a struggle at the scene, and some valuables were missing, but certain things felt unnatural. The specifics are still under investigation. I nodded. I didn't ask anything else. As I left the sub-bureau, the sky was already turning to dusk. I stood by my car and lit a cigarette, but didn't smoke it, just watching the smoke curl up into the darkening sky. Blunt force trauma to the head. An unnatural scene. Could it be a personal vendetta disguised as a home invasion robbery? Ryan Liu is missing. He's the prime suspect. But I had a nagging feeling in my gut that this might not be that simple. The way Lisa Zhang and Ryan Liu acted so arrogant, it didn't seem like they had the kind of deep hatred that leads to murder. They seemed more like local punks who bullied the weak but feared the strong. Still, human nature is unpredictable. Back at home, I opened my laptop and subconsciously looked up news regarding Lisa Zhang's case. Local news hadn't reported it yet, but in some forums and local community groups, fragmented rumors were already circulating about a homicide in a certain complex, a woman killed, and a man potentially on the run. I closed the browser, feeling like I was being a bit pointless. The police already said Ryan Liu was the main suspect. Why was I overthinking things? As a dying man, I should mind my own business. The next morning, just as I was getting ready to go out for some daily essentials, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw 2 people standing outside, a man and a woman. They were dressed plainly, but their eyes held an unsettling, sharp intensity. Who is it? I didn't open the door. Is this Mr. Arthur Chen? We are Lisa Zhang's sister and brother-in-law, the man said, his voice raspy as if he'd been crying. We have something we want to discuss with you. What did Lisa Zhang's family want with me? I hesitated for a moment, before finally opening the door. I didn't let them in, though. I just stood at the threshold. What is it? Lisa's sister's eyes were red and swollen. She looked me up and down, her tone filled with suspicion and suppressed, frantic emotion. "Did you kill my sister? The police said she had an argument with you before she died. Are you holding a grudge?" "The police have already investigated me. I have an alibi," I replied calmly. "If you have questions, you can go ask the detectives. My issue with Ms. Zhang was just a misunderstanding. We never even met in person. What reason would I have to kill her?" "Who knows what reasons you have?" Lisa's brother-in-law's voice grew louder. "I heard you have a terminal illness. Do you think, since you don't have long to live, you'd take someone down with you? Or maybe you wanted to steal her stuff? That phone of my sister's was worth $1,500. I was nearly laughed out of frustration by this nonsense. First, I'm not short on money. Second, if I were going to take someone down with me, it wouldn't be a stranger. Third, I smashed that phone on the road right then and there. You can go look near Longwood Park. You might even find the pieces. If that's all, please leave. I'm heading out." "What's with the attitude?" The brother-in-law took a step forward, looking like he wanted to get physical. My gaze turned cold as I stared him down. "What's with the attitude? I'm explaining things to you calmly. Are you even listening? If you keep making a scene here, I'll call the police and charge you with harassment. Your sister is dead. I understand how you feel. But don't just lash out at anyone you see. The police will find out who the real killer is. Goodbye." With that, I slammed the door shut right in his face. Muffled cursing came from outside for a bit, but they eventually stopped knocking. These people. I rubbed my temples, feeling a throbbing ache behind my eyes. It seemed a peaceful life was off the table. Sure enough, in the afternoon I got another call from Detective Zhao, but this time he wasn't looking for me. He was calling to tell me Ryan Liu had been caught. He was apprehended in a small motel, near a long-distance bus station in the neighboring province. He had already confessed to the murder of Lisa Zhang. Detective Zhao's voice sounded a bit more relaxed. According to his confession, the two of them had another massive fight over money and the phone. Ryan lost his temper and accidentally killed Lisa by hitting her with an ashtray. Then, he staged a robbery scene, stole some cash and jewelry, and fled. The evidence chain was quite complete. Mr. Chen, you are officially cleared of all suspicion. Sorry for the trouble. It's fine. I'm just glad it's been cleared up. I let out a sigh of relief. Even though the process was annoying, it was good to have my name cleared. After hanging up, I thought for a moment and sent a text to Detective Zhao. "Good job, Detective." Ryan Liu confessed remarkably fast. "Did the staged robbery evidence and those unnatural things you noticed earlier actually match up with his story?" A moment later, Detective Zhao replied with just 2 words, "Mostly consistent." I didn't push further. The case being closed was enough for me. Whether Ryan's act was accidental or intentional, and whether Lisa's family believed it or not, had nothing to do with me anymore. I thought this storm had finally passed. However, after only 2 days of peace, on this particular evening, I was leaning back on the sofa watching a movie, when my phone suddenly started vibrating frantically. It was the continuous notification sound of Instagram messages. There were also several calls from unknown numbers coming in. As soon as I answered one, the person on the other end started hurling abuse, calling me a murderer, saying I deserved to die from cancer, cursing me before hanging up. Utterly confused, I opened Instagram and found I'd been added to several groups of strangers. Everyone in the groups was forwarding an article. The headline was shocking. Terminal programmer turns out to be a cold-blooded killer. Police rush to close case, while victim's family cries out for justice. I clicked on the article. The content was a complete distortion of the truth. Written with extreme sensationalism, it claimed I held a grudge against Lisa Zhang over the phone dispute, used my status as a terminal patient to gain sympathy, fabricated an alibi, and either hired someone or personally murdered Lisa Zhang. It even mentioned my previous violent tendencies, and hinted that I had connections with the police, which was how I got off so quickly. At the end of the article, there was a video of Lisa's sister and brother-in-law tearfully accusing me, along with a photo of me and a blurred version of my apartment address. The comment section was a toxic cesspool, filled with curses and calls for a doxing campaign. My Instagram and phone number had clearly been leaked. A cold surge of fury instantly coursed through my entire body. This wasn't just a simple emotional outburst. This was organized, purposeful cyberbullying. Someone wanted to completely destroy my reputation or even drive me to suicide. Who did it? Lisa's family? Do they really have enough influence to write such a manipulative article and target it so precisely? Or was it someone else? The first person I thought of was Thomas Tan. He had both the motive and the capability. Or maybe that fat guy, Mr. Zhang. He lost money and face, and he held a grudge. Or perhaps that family upstairs whose TV I smashed. Or that group of elderly square dancers. It could be any of them. But the most important thing right now was to respond. I didn't post any defense or arguments in any of the groups. That would only invite more frenzied attacks. I quickly did a few things. I set Instagram to reject new friend requests, disabled, searching by phone number, and set all unknown calls to auto-reject. I saved the article links, took screenshots of the group chats, and archived the abusive texts and call logs. I recorded my screen and logged into a long unused social media. All to count. To lurk in the groups where the rumors were spreading fastest, to observe the situation. Besides the ignorant, agitated netizens in the groups, there were several IDs that were particularly active, constantly steering the narrative, inciting emotions, and calling for people to block my apartment door, call my workplace, and even send me funeral wreaths or splash paint on my door. Looking at their speech patterns and timing, they looked like professional paid trolls, hiring trolls to smear me. The cost wouldn't be low. Would Thomas Tan or Fatty Jang really shell out that much money? Just to vent their frustration? While I was thinking, the doorbell was suddenly pressed. It wasn't a normal press. It was a frantic, continuous ringing. It was exceptionally jarring in the silent night. I walked to the door and looked out through the peephole. There were 4 or 5 young men standing in the hallway. They had dyed yellow hair and were dressed like thugs. It looked like they were holding clubs or something similar. One of them was slamming hard against my door. "Murderer, get out here." "Coward. You've got the guts to do it but not to face us. Open the door or I'll smash it down." They were serious. My gaze turned completely cold. The cyberbullying had escalated to offline harassment, and could even turn into physical harm. I didn't make a sound. I quickly retreated to the living room, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911 directly. "Hello, 911? I want to report an incident. A group of people is gathered outside my door causing a disturbance. They are slamming on the door and carrying clubs, threatening my life. The address is Happy Apartments, Building 6, Unit 606. There are multiple subjects, and they are highly agitated. Please dispatch officers immediately." While making the report, I turned on my phone's video recording function, adjusted the angle to face the door, and then I went to the kitchen to grab that iron hammer I had used before, which had been kept in the kitchen cabinet. The cold metal handle in my hand brought a strange sense of security. I didn't open the door. I just stood silently inside near the camera, listening to the frantic shouting and pounding outside. About 7 or 8 minutes later, the sound of sirens came from outside, followed by shouting and chaotic footsteps. The pounding on the door stopped. Looking through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers dispersing the small group of thugs. When the thugs saw the police, their arrogance immediately vanished. They were still muttering profanities, but after a stern warning from the police, they left quietly. The police knocked on the door. I put away the hammer and opened the door. "Are you the one who called?" one officer asked. He looked at me, then looked down the hallway. "Do you know them?" "No." They were likely incited by the false rumors circulating online. I showed the officers the saved articles and the group chat logs on my phone, and briefly explained the previous homicide investigation. That had already been cleared. The police looked at it and frowned. "Online rumors? This is getting serious. Have you offended anyone lately?" "There are a few possibilities, but I'm not sure who's pulling the strings behind the scenes," I said truthfully. "We'll file a report and increase patrols in this area. You should be careful yourself. Try not to go out alone, and call us immediately if you notice anything suspicious. Regarding the online situation, you can gather evidence and report it to the Cybercrime Division," the officer advised. After seeing the police off, I closed and deadbolted the door. The apartment returned to silence, but my mind wouldn't rest. This wasn't over. The opponent was using despicable tactics, and they were losing all sense of boundaries, from rumors and defamation to hiring trolls, and then inciting the uninformed to harass me offline. What would be next? I couldn't just sit here and wait to be picked off. Since the police told me to gather evidence and report it, then I would gather it well. I opened my laptop, logged into that alt account, and began carefully analyzing those active troll IDs, trying to find commonalities or clues behind them. At the same time, I contacted the law firm I had consulted with before. I made an appointment to meet tomorrow to officially commission them to handle this case of online defamation and harassment. I was going to use the law as a weapon to drag these rats hiding behind the internet out into the light. Early the next morning, I went straight to the law firm. I was met by the same lawyer I had consulted before, Mr. Joe. He was in his early 40s, professional and efficient. I showed him all the evidence saved on my phone, the defamatory article, group chat screenshots, abusive messages, call logs, the police report from last night, and the questioning notes. I showed him all the photos and explained the whole story in detail, including the dispute with Lisa Zhang, the police investigation results, and the people I suspected. Mr. Joe listened carefully, lightly tapping his fingers on the desk. Mr. Chen, this already constitutes serious defamation, insult, and provocative behavior. It has violated your right to reputation, privacy, and has actually threatened your personal safety. The traces of professional trolls are obvious. This is an organized act. We can take legal action immediately. What's the plan? I asked. First, securing the evidence. These screenshots and screen recordings you provided are good, but we need to notarize them to strengthen their legal validity. Second, we'll send a lawyer's letter to the platform operators, demanding they immediately delete the false articles and disclose the poster's information. Third, we'll report this to the Cybercrime Division of the police to pursue administrative or criminal liability for the rumor mongers and trolls. Fourth, regarding the specific suspected infringers, like Thomas Tan or Mr. Zhang, we can investigate and gather evidence. If the evidence points to them, we can file a civil lawsuit directly, demanding a public apology, retraction of the statements, and compensation for mental distress. Mr. Joe was very methodical. Of course, if those people who harassed you last night can be caught, they can be prosecuted as well. Money is not an issue, I said directly. I need speed, and I need results. I don't have much time, and I don't want to waste it on them. Mr. Joe nodded. Understood. We will form a dedicated team to prioritize this. We can start the evidence notarization and send out the letters today. After finishing the commission paperwork, I left the law firm. Just as I got into my car, I received a call came in from an unfamiliar local landline. I took note of it, but I answered anyway. Arthur Chen? Asked a middle-aged man with a somewhat familiar voice, his tone thick with suppressed rage. That's me. Who is this? This is Thomas Tan. The person on the other end nearly growled. What the hell do you want from me? The firing issue is settled. The money was paid, and I apologized. Why are you still trying to ruin me online? You son of a bitch. Do you think having terminal cancer makes you special? I was stunned. Ruining him online? What did that mean? Thomas Tan, speak clearly. What exactly am I doing to ruin you? Stop playing dumb. Thomas Tan's voice shook with anger. Since early this morning, on the company's internal forums, and in several industry tech groups, rumors are everywhere about me abusing my power, harassing subordinates, driving out a terminal employee, and even claims that I falsified performance records and took kickbacks from suppliers. The posts are incredibly detailed, complete with photos of me dining with suppliers. Who else would it be but you? Arthur Chen, let me tell you something. If you think you can do whatever you want just because you're dying, I have plenty of ways to destroy you. I quickly calmed down. Someone was smearing Thomas Tan at the same time I was being targeted. The methods were similar, using online posts to manipulate public opinion. Was this a coincidence? Or was someone targeting us both simultaneously? What was the goal? To make us tear each other apart? Thomas Tan, listen up. My voice was flat. First, I didn't post those things you mentioned. I am currently being targeted by similar online harassment. There's an article saying I'm a murderer, and someone was slamming on my door last night. Second, the issues between us are settled. I have neither the interest nor the time to go after you. Third, if you really think it's me, feel free to call the police or present some evidence. Otherwise, don't bother me. With that, I hung up. Thomas Tan tried calling back, but I blocked him immediately. Things were getting more interesting. Thomas Tan and I were being smeared at the same time, and both were precision strikes. Whoever was behind this had significant resources and knew quite a bit about us. Who could it be? Fatty Zhang. He had the money, but he might not have such a meticulous mind or the right channels. The square dance seniors? The neighbor upstairs? Even more unlikely, unless there was a third party. Someone who hated both me and Thomas Tan, or someone who wanted to muddy the waters. On my drive home, I searched for what Thomas Tan had mentioned. Sure enough, on some anonymous workplace forums and local tech groups, I found the posts attacking him. The content matched what he described. The details were rich, photos included, and the comments below were just as foul. Many people had tagged Thomas Tan's company official accounts and executives. The method was identical to what I was experiencing. It was the same person. Back at home, I opened my laptop. I used some technical methods to try and trace the original post that smeared me, looking for the publishing IP and account. The results showed. The account was a recently registered burner, and the IP used a proxy server located overseas. They were professional, with strong anti-tracking awareness. The sources for the posts against Thomas Tan were equally hidden. The opponent wasn't simple. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment revenge. It was a planned, prepared, and technical operation. In the afternoon, Mr. Joe called. He informed me that the lawyer's letters had been sent to the platforms, and the platforms responded saying they would investigate as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the law firm arranged for someone to accompany me to the notary office to notarize the preserved evidence. The cybercrime division had also been contacted by phone. They needed me to come in to provide a detailed statement. Furthermore, Mr. Chen, Mr. Joe's tone was a bit grave. We've done some preliminary research through our channels. The hiring of the trolls and the posting of the smears likely involves a local digital marketing firm. In reality, it's a gray market agency specializing in these smear campaigns, hype, and coordinated attacks. The person who hired them was very cautious, using anonymous channels and paying in cryptocurrency. We can't find the source for now. Is it possible to find specific information on this marketing company? I asked. It's a bit difficult. They are hidden quite deep, and even if we find them, they will use client privacy as an excuse to refuse to disclose the client, unless there is strong police intervention. Mr. Joe paused. However, we can try a breakthrough from another direction. To control the trolls, these companies often establish core groups. We might be able to try and infiltrate one. I understood what he meant. What do you need me to do? We have tech-savvy colleagues at the firm. They can try to pose as a client needing similar services to get in touch with that circle. But this takes time and carries a certain risk. Mr. Joe said, you should cooperate with the police first. On the cybercrime report, we'll work from both ends. Fine. Over the next 2 days, I worked with the cybercrime division to make a detailed statement. I submitted all the evidence, and the police officially opened a case for investigation. Management at my rented apartment also increased security. No more harassers had appeared for now. The defamatory articles online, after the platforms received the lawyer's letters, were gradually being deleted or blocked, but the damage had already spread. My phone number and address seemed to still be circulating in certain small circles. I still got the occasional harassing call or text, though the frequency was much lower. Regarding Thomas Tan, I heard his company had temporarily suspended him for investigation. He was in a complete mess. He must have hated me with a passion, but I had no time for him. Following Mr. Joe's suggestion, I used a new phone number to register a new social media account. I faked my profile to look like a small business owner wanting to take down a rival. In some gray market forums and groups, I cautiously made posts, asking if there were any reliable promotion or crisis management teams. The process was slow and required patience, and what I lacked most was time. The pain in my chest was becoming more frequent. The blood in my phlegm increased when I coughed. I went to the hospital for some stronger painkillers. The doctor tactfully suggested I should be hospitalized for observation. I refused. Being hospitalized meant giving up. It meant waiting for death. I'd rather stay outside and finish what needs to be done. On the third night, my burner account finally got a response. Someone calling himself K contacted me via private message. He was very cautious in his speech, questioning my needs and my target. I followed my pre-prepared script, saying I wanted to crush a competitor who stole my business and needed a comprehensive, sustained, negative PR campaign. I told him the budget was sufficient. K didn't agree immediately. He said he needed to assess the risk, but during our conversation, he inadvertently let something slip. The orders we've taken lately have been pretty intense, like the one against that terminal programmer, and the one against that corporate executive. Both caused quite a stir. It'll cost you extra. My heart skipped a beat. It really was him or his team. I suppressed my excitement and replied, "Money isn't an issue. Results are what I'm after." "How much for that level of service?" K quoted a price that was indeed quite high, then said that was considered a custom package, including digging deep for dirt, fabricating stories, multi-channel distribution, and long-term troll maintenance, even offline. Depends on what you need. Things have been a bit tight lately, so there's a 20% hazard. Fee. By offline, do you mean sending people to my door to smash it? I asked intentionally. Is offline safe? Will we get caught? K. Our guys. Our pros. They're just local thugs hired temporarily. It won't lead back to us. Even if something happens, it'll just be seen as them acting out on their own. It has nothing to do with us. Of course, if you request it, we can make it much cleaner. I fished for information. That programmer's order from before. Was the offline part also arranged by you? K seemed to become alert. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Are you in or not? If you're in, pay a 30% deposit. Via cryptocurrency. I'm in. But I need to know what you're capable of. Can you let me see the materials related to that programmer's case? For instance, the summary of the dirt you dug up. Let me see how professional you are. I made the request. K refused. Client materials are strictly confidential. That's the rule of our trade. If you don't trust us, don't do business. The conversation hit a stalemate. I knew I couldn't push any further. Otherwise, I'd arouse suspicion. So, I told him I needed to think about it, and ended the conversation. Though I didn't get direct evidence, it was already certain that the attacks on Thomas Tan and me were the handiwork of this gray market agency. The likelihood that the client was the same person, or the same group, was extremely high. I sent K's account information, and the chat logs to Mr. Joe. Mr. Joe stated that this information could be shared with the police as a lead, but it would still be hard to catch the client directly with just this. Was I just going to stay stuck in this stalemate, waiting for the police to slowly investigate? I wasn't willing to do that. On the fourth day, an unexpected person contacted me. It was Detective Zhao, who had handled the square dancing incident and the homicide investigation. His voice on the phone was quite serious. "Arthur, I have something to update you on. There are some new discoveries in Lisa Zhang's case." "Didn't Ryan Liu already confess?" I asked. "He did confess, but as we were reviewing the evidence at the scene and the interrogation records, we found some suspicious points. The details of the crime Ryan Liu provided had a few minor discrepancies with the autopsy results. Furthermore, his emotions are unstable, and his testimony keeps changing. More importantly," Detective Zhao lowered his voice, "when we screened Lisa Zhang's social circle, we found that she had frequent contact with one number a week before her death. That number, upon investigation, belongs to a man named Silas King. This man has a criminal background, dealing in loan sharking and gray market industries. Lisa Zhang owed him a large sum of money. So, Ryan Liu might not be the true killer, or at least not the only one." I reacted immediately. That possibility can't be ruled out. Ryan Liu might just be a scapegoat, or he accidentally killed her while being pressured for debt. Silas King took the opportunity to make him take the fall. We're reevaluating everything, but this Silas King is very cunning. We can't touch him for now. Detective Zhao paused. "Also, I heard you've been targeted by cyberbullying lately, and even filed a report." "Yes, Detective Zhao. I'm also looking into who's behind it." Detective Zhao was silent for a few seconds. "Arthur, I'm giving you a heads up. This man, Silas King, controls a bunch of shady companies under his name. Some of them likely include the kind that handle paid trolls and offline harassment. Lisa Zhang's case and the timing of your harassment are close. While there doesn't seem to be a direct link, think about it. Is it possible that by smashing Lisa Zhang's phone, you offended her? And since she had Silas King backing her up, Silas King to vent for Lisa Zhang, or simply because he thought you were a nuisance, just hired someone to take care of you. My head buzzed. Silas King, the loan shark behind Lisa Zhang. If that was really the case, then everything seemed to connect. The arrogance of Lisa Zhang and Ryan Liu likely stemmed from having Silas King as their backup. I smashed the phone, which was equivalent to slapping Silas King's men in the face. For a small fry like me, Silas King probably didn't even need to show up personally. He could just give an order, and a professional team would be sent to deal with me. As for Thomas Tan, it might have just been done in passing, to muddy the waters. Or Thomas Tan had somehow offended Silas King as well. On that end, Detective Zhao continued. That Silas King you mentioned? Among the companies he controls, is there one that does digital marketing? I asked hurriedly. We need to investigate that further. These people are very careful. Their front companies are all very clean. Detective Zhao didn't answer directly. I'm just offering you a possibility. Please be extremely careful lately. People like Silas King use dirty methods and don't follow the rules. You're ill, so don't go head-to-head with him. I understand. Thank you, Detective Zhao. I hung up the phone, my heart racing. If the opponent was truly Silas King, the level of conflict was completely different. This wasn't a personal grudge. I had bumped into a tumor in the dark side of society. No wonder the methods were professional. And reckless. Head-to-head? Of course I knew it was dangerous, but did I have any way out? Even if I hid. If Silas King wanted to keep coming after me, I couldn't stop it. Besides, I didn't plan on hiding. Now that I knew the probable source, I had a direction. Silas King, huh? Involved in loan sharking, gray market industries, suspected incitement to take the fall, and controlling cyberbullying. I sat at my computer and pondered for a long time. Then, I made a decision. I logged back into that fake alt account and contacted Kay again. I've made up my mind about the order. How do I send you the target's info and the deposit? I sent the message. Kay replied quickly, send me the basic info on the target. As for the deposit, like we said before, transfer 30% to my designated cryptocurrency wallet. Once received, we'll start the preliminary background check. I sent over a fabricated company and person's name, and according to his requirements, transferred a significant amount of cryptocurrency to the wallet address he provided. Received. Wait for our word, Kay replied. I closed the chat window, a cold sneer appearing on my lips. The bait had been cast. I was going to use K to backtrack and find Silas King. At the very least, I had to get evidence of the transactions between them. It was risky. If I was seen through, it could lead to even more frantic retaliation. But I had no choice. Besides, for a dying man, what was there to be afraid of? At worst, we'd go down together over the next few days while working with Mr. Joe and the police to push my case forward. I also carefully maintained contact with Kay. I urged them to give me the background check results as soon as possible, even offering to pay more to speed up the process, all while trying to fish for more about their operating model and internal information. Meanwhile, through my own channels, I began gathering all public, or semi-public information about this Silas King. Detective Zhao was right. This kind of person looked clean on the surface. But I still found things in the history of complaint threads, on some local forums, court judgment documents for economic disputes, and public disclosure information. And from clues found in several business search applications, I began to piece together a rough outline. Silas King, in his late 40s, owns several investment consulting, cultural media, and internet technology companies. He has been involved in some local projects and appears to be an entrepreneur on the surface. But secretly, rumors of him lending money, pressuring debtors, using violent collection methods, and manipulating public opinion have been constant. Just as I was working hard to dig up information, new trouble arrived. This time it was a call from the property management office. They said multiple homeowners had complained about the house I was renting, claiming my identity was suspicious, that I had violent tendencies, and that I attracted undesirable elements who harassed the neighborhood, seriously affecting the security and peace of the complex. They demanded that I move out as soon as possible. Needless to say, this was definitely Silas King again, or perhaps the trolls under his command, pressuring the management through the homeowners to kick me out. I went straight to the property management office. The manager who received me looked very troubled. "Mr. Chen, we have no choice. Several homeowners filed a joint complaint. Someone said they saw unidentified individuals loitering near your home. For the safety of all residents, could you consider—" "Consider what?" "Consider what? Do I look like an easy target?" I stared at him. First, I am a legal tenant, with a contract. Second, I am being cyberbullied and harassed by others. I am the victim. I've already called the police, and they have a record. Third, give me the list of the homeowners who complained about me. I will go explain things to them personally. Or we can go to the police station together to explain. The manager stammered, not daring to give me the list. If you don't dare, then I will consider this a unilateral breach of contract by the management, evicting a tenant without cause. I will sue the property management company and seek compensation for all my losses. My tone was firm. Furthermore, your security is inadequate, allowing unidentified persons to enter and harass residents. I can also hold you accountable for that. The manager's forehead broke into a sweat. "Mr. Chen, please don't get excited. We'll coordinate this further. We'll coordinate." "There's nothing to coordinate." I stood up. "I will live in my home until the contract expires. If anyone else comes to harass me, I will call the police immediately and hold the management responsible. You can figure it out for yourselves." Leaving the office, I knew this was just the beginning. Silas King could use all sorts of social connections to cause me trouble and make it impossible for me to move a single inch. Sure enough, that same night, I discovered that my new car parked in the underground garage had been keyed with several long, deep scratches, from the hood all the way to the trunk. I specifically checked the surveillance. Conveniently, the camera near my parking spot was broken. Standing before the scarred car, I felt no anger, only a chilling, murderous intent. These underhanded tactics were as disgusting as flies, and as insidious as a venomous snake. I didn't call the police. Reporting such a calculated act of vandalism wouldn't do much good. I took photos of the scratches with my phone, and then I made an even more reckless decision. I contacted Kay again. I wanted to add an offline service. I sent a message. "I have an enemy who keyed my car. I want you to find a few guys. No need to hurt anyone. Just go to where he lives. Use paint to write a few words on his door, and slash his tires. I'll send you the address and license plate." "How much extra?" Kay replied quickly. "Physical offline actions like this carry high risks and high prices. Plus, you need to provide the target information first, so we can evaluate if it's feasible." I sent over an address and a license plate. It was the address and car of Fatty Jang. I had looked them up long ago. Fatty Jang was an enemy out in the open. Using him to test Kay's offline execution capability, while trying to build a deeper cooperative relationship, was perfectly logical. Even if Kay really did it, it was just Fatty Jang's bad luck. He deserved it anyway. The target is an ordinary person with some money. No complicated background. Location is Fortune Apartments. Average security, I added. After a while, Kay replied, "We can do it. The price is $120,000. Full payment up front. Results within 3 days." I paid the money without hesitation. This was a gamble. If Kay really did it, and I could find clues on Fatty Jang's end, or even catch them in the act, I might obtain direct evidence of Kay's team's offline operations, or even follow the trail further. If Kay took the money and did nothing, or saw through my test, then at the very least I would have depleted a bit of their credibility, and confirmed how cautious they were. 3 days later, I used some methods to learn that. Outside Fatty Jang's door, someone had indeed used red paint to write the words, "Pay your debts," in large characters. All 4 tires of his Mercedes had been slashed. Fatty Jang was livid and called the police, but no one was caught. Kay sent a message. "Mission accomplished. Pleasure doing business." He even attached a blurry photo of the scene. I replied, Excellent work. It seems you are pros. How is the background check on my primary target coming along? I want to launch a full-scale attack as soon as possible, including physical offline pressure. K. Check is in progress. Some dirt takes time to dig up. We'll talk about the offline part after the full plan is finalized. Stay in touch. The first step was a success. I had obtained evidence of their offline actions. Though it wasn't enough to point directly at Silas King, at least it made the connection to K more real. I also confirmed that they indeed had the capability and would actually execute offline harassment. I shared these new developments, along with my suspicions about Silas King, with both Mr. Zhou and Detective Zhao. Detective Zhao took this very seriously, especially the lead I provided about K, potentially being related to Silas King. He said he would focus on investigating Silas King and his affiliated companies to see if they were involved in such illegal operations. Mr. Zhou, however, warned me that dealing with K was very dangerous. He suggested I stop while I was ahead and leave the rest to the police. I knew it was dangerous, but I couldn't stop. Silas King was like a massive boulder hanging over my head. If I didn't move it or smash it, I wouldn't be able to die in peace while I was playing a game of cat and mouse with K. And, waiting for the police investigation to progress, a more direct threat appeared. That afternoon, I received a call from a number that showed no caller ID. I picked it up. On the other end was a low, raspy male voice, speaking unhurriedly but with a definite chill. Arthur Chin, I assume? Who is this? Who I am isn't important. What's important is that your reach has been a bit too long lately. The voice slithered into my ear like a venomous snake. Playing around with that online nonsense was fine for a while. But why did you have to go and find K? Trying to investigate me? My heart pounded. It was Silas King. He found out. How did he find out? Did K sell me out? Or had he been monitoring me the whole time? I forced myself to stay calm. I don't know what you're talking about. Silas King gave a short laugh, full of mockery. Getting terminal cancer certainly made you bold. But kid, let me tell you, there are some people you can't afford to provoke, and some muddy waters you shouldn't wade into. Regarding Lisa Zhang's matter, Ryan Liu has already taken the fall. You should be smart enough to tuck your tail and wait to die. And now you're looking into trolls and trying to track me down? And now you're trying to track me down through K. You really want to go head-to-head with me? I remained silent, my palms covered in sweat, but I forced my voice to stay steady. Silas King, you don't need to threaten me. I've got a worthless life. I have nothing to fear. But are you sure you want all those dirty things you've done to see the light of day? See the light of day? Silas King acted as if he'd just heard a joke. With you? Or that little lawyer of yours? Or those few cops? Arthur, crushing you is easier than crushing an ant. Before, I was just giving you a little lesson, just to make you sting a bit. It seems you don't know what real pain feels like. His voice suddenly turned sharp. This is my last warning to you. Stop all your little schemes immediately. Get out of this city. Or stay home and wait to die like a good boy. If I find you doing anything else, next time, it won't be your car that gets keyed. I'm a man of my word. Don't forget you still have an old father back in the countryside. You wouldn't dare. All the blood in my body rushed to my head, anger and fear intertwining. Try me. Silas King spoke coldly. I'll give you 24 hours to think about it. If I still find you an eyesore in 24 hours, you'll have to live with the consequences. The call ended, leaving only a dial tone. I stood there frozen, my body cold, yet my blood felt like it was boiling. He mentioned my father. That was my final line. Fear submerged me like a freezing tide. But immediately after, a stronger, crazier fury ignited from the deepest part of my heart. Threaten me all you want. Try to kill me if you can. But using my father to threaten me. Silas King, you have completely enraged me. I don't need 24 hours. I took several deep breaths, forcing myself to calm down. Fear is useless. Anger ruins things. Now is the time to truly put my life on the line. I picked up my phone. First, I called my father back home, casually confirming his safety. Then I warned him, if any strangers contact him or come looking for him lately, don't say anything. Call the police immediately and get in touch with me. My father was confused, but hearing my serious tone, he agreed. Next, I called both Mr. Joe and Detective Zhao. I told them about Silas King's direct telephonic threat, including the threat against my father, recounting every detail. Beyond his shock, Mr. Joe stated that this was an extremely serious case of intimidation. He suggested I apply for police protection immediately and consider taking some protective measures for my father as well. Detective Zhao's tone was exceptionally grave. Arthur, do not panic and do not be impulsive. The fact that Silas King dared to call and threaten you directly means he's getting desperate. It also means our investigation might have hit a nerve. It's both good and bad. The good part is, he's showing more of his hand. The bad part is, your situation is indeed very dangerous. We will immediately arrange personnel to keep a close eye on the safety of you and your father. At the same time, the investigation into Silas King will be upgraded immediately. What you need to do is stay calm and cooperate with us. Whatever you do, do not take any drastic actions on your own. Protect yourself. Detective Zhao. My voice was a bit raspy. If, during the process of cooperation, in order to protect myself, or to get key evidence, I do a few things that walk the edge of the line, how would you all view that? There was a long silence on the other end. Detective Zhao spoke slowly. Arthur, you are a victim, and an important provider of leads. The police's duty is to protect citizens' safety and fight crime. Within the framework allowed by the law, we will do our best to protect you. But the prerequisite is that you cannot break the law. Do you understand? I understand, I said. The framework allowed by the law, sometimes that framework is just too narrow. After hanging up, I looked out the window as the sky gradually darkened. Silas King gave me 24 hours. I won't run, and I won't just sit and wait for death. If we're going head-to-head, then bring it on. But I wouldn't be stupid enough to go have a knife fight with him. I'm a programmer. My weapon is code. Information is my brain. A plan began to rapidly take shape in my mind. It was crazy, but it might just work. I was going to take the initiative and send Silas King a grand gift. Step 1. I contacted Kay again, using an even more urgent and business-like tone. Kay, about the background check on that competitor. Can we speed it up? Money is no object. Also, I need to add an emergency service. I sent the message. What kind of service? Kay replied. I've run into some trouble. There's a guy named Silas King who seems to have some influence. He's giving me and my family a hard time. I don't want to go head-to-head, but I need some insurance. I intentionally revealed that I knew Silas King's name and acted, scared, looking for protection, or bargaining chips. Silas King? Kay's reply was half a beat slow. You messed with him? Just a misunderstanding. So I wanted to ask if you have any way to help me send him a message or get me something that would make him think twice. The price is negotiable. I threw out the bait. If Kay really was Silas King's subordinate, he would either refuse and report to Silas King, pretend to agree to fish for info, or, if this team wasn't perfectly loyal, or had other ideas, perhaps they could become my breakthrough. Kay was silent for a long time. Just as I thought he wouldn't reply, finally, a message came. We don't take jobs involving intermediaries. The risk is too high. We'll continue with the order for your business competitor. Don't ask about anything else. The refusal was blunt. But this reaction actually made me feel that Kay was very sensitive to the name Silas King, maybe even a bit wary. They might really be Silas King's underlings, but the relationship wasn't one of absolute trust. Step 2. I activated another backup plan. As a former programmer, I wasn't entirely without means in the virtual world. I had long ago used non-public channels to gather the public information of several companies under Silas King's name that appeared legitimate: tech, media, and PR firms, including their official websites, some ports that might provide external services, and technical stack info accidentally leaked by employees on social media. One of Silas King's primary businesses was developing and operating apps and websites that looked legit, but were likely used for illegal lending, data collection, or gray market promotion. These systems were bound to have vulnerabilities, especially when they prioritize fast launches and flexible operations They wouldn't invest too many resources into security. I spent more than half the night targeting a word port used for customer service at one of those companies, performing some friendly security probes. I didn't try to hack or destroy anything that would leave a trail. I was just like a curious spider, lightly touching the edges of the network, looking for unpatched common vulnerabilities or improperly configured open interfaces. I was in luck. One of the subdomains used for uploading promotional materials, there was a directory traversal vulnerability, and the debug logs had been accidentally left enabled. The log files could actually be accessed directly through a specific path. The logs certainly didn't contain core data, but they recorded a large number of internal IP addresses, some employees' operational habits, and even a few test account passwords. I took all of this information, along with a detailed description of the vulnerability and its exploitation, packaged it anonymously, and used an untraceable encrypted channel to send it to an internal work email that Detective Zhao had left for me. The subject of the email was technical leads and security risks regarding Silas King's suspected illegal business and cybercrime. Inside the content, I hinted that these vulnerabilities could be exploited by criminals to endanger citizens' information security, suggesting that the police cybersecurity department intervene for an inspection, and specifically pointed out the potential link between these systems and his loan sharking and paid troll operations. This was a risky move, a clear declaration of war. I was forcing Silas King's hand and also pushing the police to speed up their actions. If the police took it seriously and intervened with a technical investigation, they would likely follow the trail and find solid evidence of Silas King's crimes. As for Silas King, if he noticed his system was being watched or accessed, he might miscalculate, either retreating or becoming even more desperate. By the time I finished doing all this, dawn was breaking. I had no desire to sleep. My chest throbbed with pain. I took my medicine and stood by the window watching the city wake up. I knew that from this moment on, the war between me and Silas King had shifted from the shadows to a level where light and dark intertwined. He had influence in the shadows. He had technology and petty cleverness in the shadows, but the police were the third-party power that could determine the winner. At 9:30 a.m., Detective Zhao called. His voice was urgent. "Arthur, what you sent last night is too important. We've already handed it over to the cyber case and technical investigation departments. Their preliminary assessment is that the value is extremely high. The tech companies under Silas King's name are very likely the technical support for criminal activities. We are currently applying for search warrants and further technical investigation permits. You did well, but you must be careful. If Silas King notices, his reaction could be very violent. I know, Detective Zhao. Regarding my father, don't worry. We've already contacted the local police station. They've sent plainclothes officers to keep an eye out near your home, and we've briefed your father, telling him to try not to go out for the next few days, and not to open the door for any strangers. What about yourself? Do you need us to send someone over?" "Not for now," I said. "Too many people would be conspicuous, and it might tip them off. I'm prepared." Not long after I hung up, my backup phone rang. It was a completely unknown local number. I picked it up. "Arthur Chen?" It was a young, panicked male voice. It wasn't Silas King. "Who is this?" I'm from Kay's team. You can call me Blade." The person spoke very quickly. "Long story short, you're being watched like a hawk. Silas King knows you're looking into him. He's furious. He ordered us not just to keep ruining your name, but to find a chance to make you disappear forever. To stage an accident. Our boss doesn't dare disobey. He's already making the arrangements. I'm secretly warning you. Run now. Run as far away as you can." My heart went cold, but I kept my voice steady. "Why are you telling me this?" My sister borrowed from Silas King's loan sharks the year before last. She couldn't pay it back, and they pushed her until she almost jumped off a building. In the end, I worked and secretly paid back part of it. For the rest, I was forced to work for them to pay off the debt. I don't want blood on my hands. Just go." Blade's voice was filled with fear and urgency. "What exactly is Silas King planning to do? And when?" I pressed. "I don't know the specific plan. It might be in the next day or two. Maybe a car accident. Or maybe something else. They are capable of anything. Listen to me. Leave now. After Blade finished, he immediately hung up, clutching the phone. My palms were icy. Silas King was indeed going for the kill. And so soon. This call from Blade was an unexpected bonus, but also a lethal warning. The credibility was high. It matched Silas King's style. It also explained why. Someone in K's team would turn. Running might allow me to hide temporarily, but what about my father? What about the police investigation? Wouldn't all my previous efforts be for nothing? And with Silas King's power, where could I possibly run? Cancer wouldn't disappear just because I ran away. I couldn't run. I had to meet the challenge. And I had to move fast. I had to make him too busy to breathe. Before he could make his move, I immediately reported the call from Blade, including the phone number, and the content of the conversation to Detective Zhao. Detective Zhao took it extremely seriously, stating they would track this number immediately and increase surveillance on Silas King and his core henchmen. At the same time, he strongly urged me again to accept police protection and move to a safe house temporarily. I still refused to go to a safe house. That was too passive. But I agreed to have the police conduct covert monitoring on the perimeter of my complex and on the routes I might take. Meanwhile, Detective Zhao and I reached an even bolder plan. Since Silas King wanted to stage an accident, we would give him an opportunity under strict police surveillance, lure the snake out of the hole, and catch them red-handed. The core of the plan was that I would deliberately expose a regular routine, going to a large supermarket not far from home, every afternoon at 3:30 p.m., to buy daily necessities and medicine. There was a section of this route that was a relatively quiet, old street with fewer surveillance cameras. I would go on foot. The police would set up a dragnet in advance at every entrance, exit, and high point of that old street, using plainclothes officers and technical means to monitor the entire process. Once Silas King's men made their move, they would be arrested immediately. It was an extremely dangerous bait, but I insisted, after Detective Zhao repeatedly verified my physical condition and psychological readiness. He finally agreed and deployed an elite team. At 2:30 p.m. that afternoon, I changed my clothes as usual, grabbed a shopping bag, and walked out of the apartment. I could feel many pairs of eyes watching me from the shadows. Some belonged to Silas King, others to the police. My heart beat heavily in my chest, not because of fear, but because of a nearly cold focus. I walked slowly, deliberately maintaining an air of slight exhaustion and preoccupation. I crossed the busy main road and turned into that slightly dilapidated old street. On both sides of the street were old residential buildings and a few scattered shops. There were very few pedestrians. Just as I walked to the middle of the old street, underneath a large tree, suddenly something happened. An inconspicuous silver-gray van, which had been parked on the side of the road, suddenly started up. Without turning on its lights, it accelerated violently, charging toward me on the sidewalk. It was incredibly fast, clearly a premeditated move, with a clear target to run me over. Almost at the exact moment the van started, the owner of a small roadside stall violently flipped the stall over, pulled out a handgun, and a window on the second floor that had been left ajar suddenly burst open. Windows were also pushed open. The dark muzzles of guns protruded. Simultaneously, piercing sirens suddenly erupted from both ends of the old street. Several cars with civilian license plates, but flashing built-in police lights, rushed out from the intersections, charging straight for the van. "Police, drop your weapons!" Roars echoed from all sides. The van driver clearly hadn't expected the police to be lying in wait so close, and in such numbers. Panicking, he jerked the steering wheel, and the vehicle crashed into a roadside utility pole with a loud thud, the front end crumpling. The engine stalled. Almost instantly, the stall owner and the gunman at the second-floor window were tackled by plainclothes officers lying in wait nearby. They were subdued, and their guns were seized. The entire process, from start to finish, took less than 20 seconds. I stood where I was, not even taking a single step back, merely staring coldly at the wrecked van and the thugs being pinned to the ground by the police. Detective Zhao walked quickly over from one of the cars, his face grim. He looked me up and down. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, shaking my head. He walked over to the van and pulled open the door. The driver was a burly, bald man, bleeding from his head. and still struggling against the deployed airbag, a baseball bat fell out of the passenger seat, along with a roll of thick hemp rope. In the back seat, there was an unopened canister of gasoline, and several empty glass bottles. Caught red-handed with the evidence, Detective Zhao spoke into his radio in a deep voice. Take them all in. Interrogations immediately. Apply for search warrants for Silas King and his primary hideouts. Get them. He turned back to me, his eyes showing complex emotions. Arthur, you've done a great service, but you took an enormous risk. Now you can take a break for a while. Leave the rest to us. I promise. Not a single one of Silas King's gang will get away. I nodded, feeling my tense nerves suddenly go slack. What followed was a fit of violent coughing and dizziness. Detective Zhao quickly supported me and called an ambulance. I didn't refuse the hospital trip. I knew my body was reaching its limit. In the ER, I was put on oxygen and an IV. Once my condition stabilized slightly, I was admitted to a private ward. Detective Zhao arranged for officers to stand guard outside the room. Over the next few days, reports of victory came in one after another. While attempting to flee the city, Silas King was intercepted and captured at a highway toll booth. At his residence and company, investigators found a massive number of predatory loan contracts, records of violent debt collection, illegal firearms, restricted knives, vouchers of financial transactions with K's team, and lists of troll farm tasks. More importantly, the technical investigation department used the leads I had provided to successfully breach the core server permissions of his company. They obtained a vast amount of electronic evidence of illegal data harvesting, public opinion manipulation, and even suspected money laundering. The evidence was irrefutable. Upon learning that Silas King had been caught, Brian Liu's psychological defense collapsed. He recanted all his previous statements and admitted, through tears, that Silas King had ordered him to teach Lisa Zhang a lesson. After he accidentally killed her, it was Silas King who used threats and bribes to make him take the fall, promising to take care of his family. The truth of Lisa Zhang's case was coming to light. As for Fatty Zhang, because he was suspected of commissioning K's team to harass me offline, he was also summoned by the police. Faced with the evidence, he had to confess, admitting that he acted out of resentment over the money and lost face, contacting K through a friend. He was detained and fined for provoking a disturbance. The smear campaign against Thomas Tan was confirmed to be the work of another group under Silas King. The purpose was to create confusion, muddy the waters, and strike at anyone potentially connected to me. Thomas Tan was essentially collateral damage, but his suspension and investigation continued due to other issues that were uncovered. His career prospects looked bleak. As for the elderly square dancers and the neighbors upstairs, once they learned Silas King's gang had been dismantled and heard about my role in the case, they completely lost their spark. They would go out of their way to avoid me now. A week later, I was discharged and went home. My body was even weaker, but my spirit felt an unprecedented clarity and ease. Mr. Joe told me that regarding my cyber defamation case, with K's team captured and evidence secured, we could file a criminal and civil lawsuit to hold Silas King and the perpetrators accountable. We would demand a public apology and compensation. I authorized him to handle everything. The house was sold, and the car was dealt with too. The money in my account was enough for me to spend my final days in the most comfortable way possible. I chose to stay in this city. In a quiet neighborhood near the lake, I rented a penthouse apartment. It had large floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the water and the city skyline on the far shore. I no longer cared about the world's troubles. I spent every day reading, listening to music, and occasionally taking slow walks by the lake, enduring the increasingly frequent pain. While waiting for the final moment to arrive, Sarah came to see me once while I was in the hospital. She brought a bouquet of flowers and offered some superficial words of concern. We had nothing left to say to each other. She stayed for 10 minutes and then left. I heard the money she took in the split was quickly funneled into a new investment, which apparently wasn't going very well. My father rushed over from our hometown, insisting on taking care of me. I couldn't talk him out of it, so I let him stay. We were often silent together, but eating and watching TV as a family gave me a sense of quiet warmth. I didn't tell him the full extent of my illness, only that I needed a long period of rest. On a sunny afternoon, I was sitting in a rocking chair by the window, wrapped in a thin blanket. Detective Zhao and Mr. Zhou visited me together, bringing the final news. Silas King, for organizing and leading a criminal organization, intentional assault, unlawful detention, extortion, violating citizens' personal information, illegal business operations, and tampering with testimony, over 10 charges in total, had his arrest formally approved. The case was being transferred to the prosecutor's office, and he would face the full severity of the law. The main members of the criminal gang were all captured. K. Blade, the driver who tried to hit me, and the gunman would all face their respective trials. As for my defamation case, the prosecution was preparing to file public charges. Mr. Zhou said, an apology and compensation were only a matter of time. Arthur. Detective Zhao looked at my thin, pale face, his tone heavy. Is there anything else you need us to help with? I smiled, looking out at the shimmering surface of the lake. No more. Thank you both. The result is perfect. After they left, I continued to sit in the rocking chair. As the sun set, the lake and the old city were bathed in a warm layer of golden red light. I reflected on this short yet long life, especially these final months. I've suffered and been exhausted. I've been stifled, and I've been angry. I exploded and I fought back. In the end, I won. It wasn't that I won back my health or my time, but that I won back my dignity. I forced those who tried to trample me to pay the price they owed. I settled every debt that needed settling. I dragged down the garbage that needed to be dragged down. This world is too bitter and tiring, but when I leave, my heart is clean. It is satisfied. There are no more attachments or regrets. That is enough. I slowly closed my eyes, feeling the final warmth of the setting sun.